And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bashing us, him.
Attention, roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time. Monday morning, back in action. Got a lot of information. Let's talk about the proposed bill from City Council. The civilian watchdog CCRB seeks to watch NYPD one body camera in real time. So this is near and dear to me. CCRB is my wheelhouse. I'm flabbergasted by this, although I'm not surprised. And I think it's quite interesting. CCRB cries that they don't have enough personnel and they can't handle their caseload. They don't have enough funding. And yet there's a proposed bill by City Council for them to watch body camera in real time. It's kind of laughable. John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so new bill comes out from City Council. I mean, more of the same, just another chipping away at the at the authority of the NYPD. It's trying to really have officers stay on their toes and be afraid to conduct in proactive police work or do anything for that matter, because, you know, there's a difference between accountability and constant surveillance, constant, unwarranted, unnecessary surveillance. So like the CCRB is like failing at the complaints that they get now. They get an overwhelming amount of complaints that they kick back half the time to the NYPD, say, "Oh, we don't have the ability to investigate these cases." But what they're asking for now is they want the ability to have access directly to members' body cameras. Now, we spoke to you over a year and a half ago, even though the job and the unions called us liars. And then we showed you directly from Axon's website where it says your body cameras, police body cameras, have the ability to be accessed at any time, regardless of whether they're on or off. As it stands right now in the NYPD, officers are required to turn their body camera on in certain scenarios. However, like I just stated, it doesn't matter if they do or if they don't, those body cameras can be accessed. And that's really ultimately where we're going, is where these body cameras are going to be used to build not only to scrutinize unwarranted scrutiny on the New York City Police Department and on certain officers that are being targeted by the Civilian Complaint Review Board or anyone else for that matter, but it's just now they're moving posts to help build this surveillance state. So it's like, it's really, I don't know where we're going with this. Like everything that the City Council says that they're against, they're actually furthering. So it makes no sense. So this bill was introduced by Adrian Adams, public advocate Jumani Williams, Carlina Rivera, Farrah Lewis, Tiffany Caban, Sean Abreu, Shahana Hanif, Amanda Farias, and Carmen De La Rosa. So they want these 9 members, they want the ability for the CCRB to have direct access to the NYPD's body camera footage. And again, when we look at CCRB, the New York City Civilian Complaint Review Board, they investigate allegations, fatal allegations, force, abuse of authority, discourtesy, offensive language, and now they're continuing to want to further what they investigate. So, but when they investigate those, they investigate those based upon a complaint from a complainant. This is going to kind of upend that a bit. What's going to happen is there's just going to be constant surveillance of officers, and it will give the CCRB the ability to basically just generate nonsensical complaints at will against officers. So I think it's something that we shouldn't have brought to the surface. It's something that the union should have brought to the surface. It's something that Jessica Tisch should have brought to the surface. It's something that all of the people who claim that they care about the police and they claim to care about how politics infected policing should have been bringing to the surface. Again, Eric Adams is your mayor right now. This isn't a Zohran Mamdani bill. This is a bill that's going to happen under Eric Adams, that's being forged under him. Now probably gets passed under Zohran Mamdani, but surely it will pass. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't.
Yeah. Morning, guys. Morning, chat. I see our regulars are already in there. We got Hassan. We got Mikey G, Joel. Hope you guys all had a great weekend. Yeah, I think it's even worse than that, John, because we talked maybe about a year ago now. We also talked about how intertwined all of this was with AI. And the way I see it is that the only way this is possible to view it and manage all that data is to use AI. And unfortunately, we're seeing the just how connected the left and the progressives who claim that what they're doing is for the people, and they love to tell you how the police department is oppressive and all that, but you're seeing how intertwined they are with really Wall Street and big business, and how much what they're doing is just a ruse for big business, and to allow you know to welcome in the police state. So as we go on, I'll talk about it. But this is a dark road we're heading now. Once we get the real time monitoring of cameras, I think we're not too far away from a massive constant surveillance grid in the city with every think of it, every cop who's on duty right now on the street with a body camera that's on all the time. And I think that's what's coming.
There's no doubt about it that we're headed for a police state where we're controlling the actual police. I mean, we see control from the left, we see control from the right. It actually solidifies and validates what I've been saying. I've been saying not the NYPD, the CCRB, the inception of it as an independent watchdog was 1993. It was meant to be an investigative agency. I think it's far from that. It's far from being an investigative agency. In fact, it's actually a political agency, which is why we see the city council with such confidence to propose such an insane bill. And I'm John, I 100% agree with you. I don't see this finding any resistance or reluctance at all. I think this is going to go through. This is going to be an easy bill to pass. There's no doubt about it. For the most part, most bills from city council that have anything to do with oversight of the NYPD do pass. I mean, how many stops act? That was absolutely insane. That passed. We could talk about qualified immunity. We could talk about the chokehold ban. We could talk about the diaphragm law. I mean, it's just chip after chip, chipping away at the NYPD. So now body cameras were meant for accountability and for an after-action review, but it's not meant to watch in real time. And with untrained investigators, they don't even know exactly what they're going to watch. And it's ironic also. John and I did a podcast maybe about a year and a half ago about CCRB investigators that were actually making complaints that they were suffering PTSD, or some say PTSI, post-traumatic stress injury, from watching body cam videos of police department interactions. And that was after action reviews. So if that's the case, how are they going to handle it with the lack of experience and never actually had their boots on the ground to watch the police department take action in real time? There's so many concerns here. There's so many things we could talk about. And I think what's really important also is, what about the sanctity of the residents? What about the civilians themselves? What if a police officer is handling a situation where there's pertinent and private information? Let's say, for instance, rhetorically speaking, the police department is handling a situation where there's a rape case and some information starts to surface. And now the police officer has to turn their body camera off. Is that going to be an issue with the Civilian Complaint Review Board? Because we're talking about private information, but yet the Civilian Complaint Review Board wants to probe every situation. So, I mean, this is just a complete overreach. This is outside their purview. And this is another attack so that they can make frivolous claims also, where John mentioned force, abuse, discourtesy, offensive language. But there's another caveat the Civilian Complaint Review Board investigates, and that's biased policing, racial profiling. So that's another issue that they really could be extremely subjective watching body cam in real time. But the question is this: when they watch it, if they do, and they will, because this will pass, do they know what they're watching? Even trained police officers in real time sometimes mischaracterize or misrepresent what's happening by maybe a point police officer. Sometimes it takes time to put the puzzle together and figure out exactly what you have. How is an untrained investigator watching in real time supposed to figure out what they have? This is absolutely ridiculous. This is a far overreach. It's not about accountability and transparency anymore. It's just about control of the police department and attacking their careers. If you get on their radar, if you're Eric Dimmer, you're the most complained cop. If you're an active police officer out there doing intrusive police work, if you get on their radar, it would be very easy to attack you. Now, going back to what you said earlier, John, the CCRB at this point, I think it's about 2 years now, does not need an actual complainant. They can self-initiate a complaint. But this is just more ammunition for the CCRB to initiate complaints. This is absolutely insane. It will be impossible for the police officers to do their job. In no other profession is anyone expected to do their job in real time on camera 24 hours a day, other than local municipalities, local police department, especially New York City.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't even like the whole real time thing. To me, it doesn't really matter to me, because either way, they're gonna have access to it post or live. Now, I agree with Marlon. I don't think that they have the manpower to sit there. I don't think the police department has the manpower to sit there and canvass somebody's body camera. There's how many body cameras are live in New York City right now? You know what I mean? So like they're not gonna be able to do that. So I agree with Marlon. It's gonna go to an AI form where they're just gonna scour every body camera with AI to try to pick out what they believe is a civilian complaint, and they're going to self-generate complaints based upon that. Now, that's a big problem because, like I just told you, they can't handle the amount of complaints that they get already. So now what happens when they generate thousands of more complaints every day? They become even more of an incompetent, inept agency that doesn't oversee anything. They're useless. I mean, I honestly, like, I'm not kidding. Like, if I was someone that was anti-police, I would think that the CCRB is still a huge waste of money, because if I was beaten by the police, I don't believe the CCRB could bring me justice. If I was wrongfully stopped by the police and searched and robbed, the CCRB is not giving me justice. So, like, I'm like looking at it from both angles, and then when I look at them from the police angle, I also look at the fact, well, they don't really go after the corrupt cops. They don't really go after the heavy-handed cops. They go after some cops. They go after the rank and file who aren't politically connected. That's who they go after. And a lot of times the complaints that they have are nonsense, and their investigations don't ever prove anything. They just hammer people arbitrarily to put there and say, like, oh yeah, look what we did. And so my problem with all of it is I don't think that we've really thought out body-worn camera too well at this point. I was in internal affairs at the inception of the body camera program. So at the inception of the body camera program, they took the most violent precincts across the city and they gave them body cameras first before it went live, before the union sold you out for 2.25% and said, oh, it's the best thing ever. It's going to protect you. And now you see it's being totally weaponized, used against you, and actually being used exactly. And I totally agree with you, Marlon. Like, exactly what the lefties in the CCRB are claiming to fight against, they're completely helping to do, because we saw that with the gate, right? They want the ability. They're not fighting the ability for the police department to keep your gate the way you walk into a database. They're just protecting you from corporations. It's like, wait, no, if it's a violation of the Fourth Amendment, then it's a violation of the Fourth Amendment for the police specifically, not just corporations. So, there's that aspect to it. But at the inception of the body camera program, I was on the IB, like, command center desk or whatever, and I received a call from a lieutenant in legal. And the lieutenant in legal tells me, oh, I got to generate a complaint. I'm like, what do you want to generate a complaint for? He goes, oh, I'm reviewing these body cameras. And, after the stop happens, the cop says animal. So I'm like, what do you mean? He said animal to the guy. Did the guy call up? No. The guy didn't call up. He's walking off. He hits the camera off, but the camera continues to roll for like another 30 seconds or whatever. And the cop, under his breath, says animal. I'm like, all right, well, it doesn't seem like that's a complaint to me. I mean, did the guy complain about it? No, the guy didn't complain about it. I'm like, are you complaining about it? No, I'm not complaining about it. I was like, okay, then it's not a CCRB. Hangs up, calls back. No, my boss says it's a CCRB. I was like, okay. I was like, who's the complainant? You or your boss? You're saying that you're offended by this. You're the complainant. The person that was stopped isn't the complainant, right? Like the person that you stopped he said animal under his breath. What do you know he referred to? So when we look at who's training the AI, it's us. We're training the AI, and we haven't figured it out ourselves. So what I'm saying is you're just going to get thousands and thousands and thousands of frivolous complaints against cops. It's going to go on their permanent record forever. It's going to continue to further to dirty up all these cops. Most of the stuff, nothing's going to come out of it. I mean, the overwhelming majority of it, 95% of it, nothing will come of it, but it'll still be tagged with you on your record. And, you know, and then for some things, you're going to get tagged completely unwarranted for situations that don't even involve people when you don't even have a complainant, when you didn't even really do anything wrong. You were having a human venting moment. You said something stupid to yourself. You joked with your partner. You were talking to your wife on the phone. I mean, so like it's completely unnecessary. CCRB, as it stands, gets access to body camera worn footage. When they request it, they get it within a 30-day time window. There's nothing wrong with that process.
Yeah. So you brought up a question, like about the managing of the thousands of complaints, and I'm gonna say that they already anticipate that. You see, once cops are getting thousands of complaints from the AI, and like I said, there's going to be so much data. There's no way humans could manage that data, and there's no way, if the AI is generating the data, that a supervisor at the end of their tour can go back and sift through all that data, even if the AI is smart enough to clip the data to bits that they can watch. There's no way. So again, what's going to happen is not only will the AI be sifting through it, but the AI will be self-generating the complaints, and a supervisor won't even have to participate in it. It's all going to go to the CCRB or whoever is going to have to adjudicate the complaint, right? And
Yeah,
I'm also
sorry to cut you off real quick, but I'm just getting that a cop got shot in the 7-3 precinct with a shotgun, Linden Boulevard and Boylan Street. So I'm hearing that he shot the MOS shot in the 7-3 with a shotgun. He's not likely at this time, and the perp has barricaded himself at that location. So anybody gets anything like that on the chat, please let us know. Sorry, Marlon.
No worries. Yeah, the NYPD side put up something on Thomas Boylan and Linden Boulevard. So yeah, prayers to that officer, and let's hope the other responding officers can bring a quick end to this incident.
Yeah, I got it right here. So Brooklyn officers from the 73rd Precinct responded to a 911 call for a man with a gun at 1046 Thomas S. Boylan Street. When they arrived, the suspect barricaded himself inside and shot an NYPD officer. The injured officer was rushed to the Brookdale Hospital in the back of a police car. The suspect is still barricaded on the first floor. He's believed to still be armed with the shotgun. ESU, HNT, and Taru are still en route. So,
Yeah. So like I was saying, I kind of lost my train of thought. So
sorry
basically
that,
I was
dude.
saying
Sorry.
that no worries. This is something that we got to talk about, and we'll get back to as we get more information on it. But all I was saying is basically I think all of this plays into the future that they want, and the future is robotic. And I merely have to go through the list of partners of Axon, and it tells me it tells me exactly that. Axon is already partnered with OpenAI and Amazon, who powers the back end, and they even acquired their own AI team. And by the way, they want to have their own taser drones too, by the way. So unfortunately, I think this plays into a future where there are less humans policing humans and more robots policing it, and I don't like it.
I've never been super religious, but I've definitely I've gotten more spiritual over time and starting to appreciate religion even more. This weekend I went to a bar mitzvah, and some of the stuff, excuse me, some of the stuff the rabbi had said really resonated. And just thinking about our own spirituality, it's, to me, it is kind of divine. I find every time that we speak about how difficult it is to be a police officer, and people don't understand what police officers see and what they feel and what they do, and especially those that suffer from the Dunning-Kruger effect, particularly the CCRB. We have incidents like this that just solidify what it is to be a cop. As we're talking about this ridiculous bill, we have a cop shot. It's just, to me, it's extremely divine. It's just another reminder. And God bless to that police officer and every police officer that's out there every day. It's got to be the hardest profession ever, right? Because there's just so much critique on it. Now, I think this bill in general it's actually dangerous. It's dangerous to the cops. It's dangerous to the public. It serves no good. The whole purpose of body camera footage was for accountability, to make the police officers better, to have better interactions with the public, more as a training tool. We see it's far from that. The CCRB just is completely outside their purview. I just think it's ridiculous. We have, first of all, it's an organization that to me is just completely political, comprised of investigators that have a complete bias and disdain, and they already have a mindset towards police officers, and they lack training. They lack training of what it is to investigate a case. And again, I want to go back to that, what I've said before. John and I did an episode talking about the trauma that the civilian complaint investigators claimed that they were sustaining from watching body camera footage and in an after action review, where the case already happened. They already have a synopsis. Now they're watching in real time. And the reality is exactly what you're saying, Marlon. They're not actually going to watch it. This is going to be completely AI generated. Yeah, I've been saying this. I blew the horn on this about 3 years. I've been saying that the entire profession is going to be taken over by AI and robotics. And I see that we're going in that direction. There's no doubt in my mind that it will be AI reviewing this body camera footage in real time. And it's going to be completely subjective by the Civilian Complaint Review Board investigators, putting in the keywords that they want to look for. And I do believe that also these investigations will be played out by AI also. So I think it's in real time, AI will monitor it. And then the actual investigations will be done by AI. So this is extremely subjective. So as Crow either said, 100% AI review. Absolutely. Absolutely. They're going to look for keywords to prove the police officers involved are showing bias and doing some form of racial profiling. They're going to show that the police officers are discourteous, offensive, and of course the catch-all we know, besides force, abuse of authority. And that's really the one that I have a problem with. Abuse of authority. Excuse me, because that's been the catch-all. That's the catch-all for the Civilian Complaint Review Board. Everything falls under abuse of authority. If you provide someone with a warning that if they take such and certain actions that they will be under arrest for the CCRB, that is considered abuse of authority. And it's absolutely ridiculous to get a complaint substantiated on your record of abuse of authority. It sounds far more devious than it actually is. If you look up someone's record and say, wow, they abused their authority, in reality, it's just a catch-all when it comes to Civilian Complaint Review Board. So this is a complete overreach. There's no doubt in my mind this will pass. But the question is, what good, if any, it will do? And the answer is nothing. Nothing. This is only going to create a more dangerous environment for the vulnerable police officers that already have their boots on the ground, that are already hesitant in taking police action as we speak. This is only going to make them even more hesitant and tail back from intrusive police work. And intrusive police work is the bedrock and foundation to policing, what keeps people safe. So this is going to be completely AI generated. There's no doubt about it. CCRB does not have the manpower, and they don't have the understanding and the complexity understanding of policing. They just don't. They don't know what they're looking at. And as I said earlier, sometimes it takes actual trained police officers seconds or even minutes to understand what's going on, to put a puzzle together. And we're talking about trained police officers, and yet the Civilian Complaint Review Board, watching in real time, if they actually watch in real time, other than AI, is not going to understand what they're watching. So if they don't understand what they're watching, how can they actually program an AI system to understand what it's watching also. This is scary stuff. So Rob Lukash had mentioned something earlier, and I think that's a great point. Did any of the unions provide any campaign money to any of these council members that are proposing this bill? That is a great question. And I wouldn't be surprised.
I'd have to go through it, but I'm pretty sure there's one or two people on there that they've not only have they provided campaign money to, but they've actually endorsed, and that's multiple different unions. So a couple of points here. So Rob Lukash says his son's department, their body camera actually dings when a supervisor looks at it, or let's say the CCRB is looking at it. I'm totally against it. I don't, this is more of a, we're going to keep officers safe by taking away your freedom and your right to privacy. Like, totally against that happening. And 100%, I'm totally against it notifying the officer while he's on the scene. I think at this point, it's safe to say if you have a body camera anywhere on you, in your bag, in the RMP, in your locker, there's.
Hey, John, I don't want to interrupt you, but I'm hearing that the cop was actually shot in the face.
Oh my God!
Jesus.
In Brookdale. So,
do you have an update?
What's that?
Does it tell you? Because it's a shotgun. Is it like? Do they know? Like, was it how close? Was it what is it?
I'm trying to get that. I'll work on getting that right now.
Like, what is it? Yeah, if you got anything.
The cop is at Brookdale right now.
That's horrible. Horrible. So yeah, if you find out like the severity of it, is it buckshot, or did he really take a shot to the face? Like, if you could get that. All I heard is he's not likely at this time, but I'm looking at other news outlets and they're not saying anything about his condition. So I don't know. So if anybody gets it, please put it in the chat. And if any of you guys see it in the chat, just let me know. Too. Cop was grazed. IMP Franco saying cop was grazed. Okay. All right. If you when you confirm or we hear anything, just let us know, please. I'll try to stay low. I try to keep up with the chat, guys, but there's always a lot. So perp holding multiple hostages. Oh man. Okay. Mike Freed says he's in stable condition. All right, so let's get back to hopefully he's in stable condition. Hopefully that's the case. And hopefully we'll pray for all these hostages. And listen, we could talk crap about the people that run New York City and all that, but I'm not gonna talk crap about, I think we all know and we're all confident that the NYPD is the best at doing this hostage barricaded situation. So I'm sure they got all the big guns out, all the big boys, and we'll pray for a successful conclusion with no one else injured. Whatever happens to the perp as a result is not really our concern. He's the one that's bringing violence. So terrible situation. All right, so back to what Rob was saying is like, so his son's on a job now. Like, let's think about this right now. Let's put it into the scenario. You're on this job right now, and now your body camera beeps, beep, and now you're being watched. Do you first of all, do you want to be distracted by the beep? Secondly, do you want to be distracted by your worry of who's looking? Why are they looking? Why is this guy on my body camera? Why is he not on Eric's? Why is he not on Marlon's? Why is he not on this? I don't want that distraction. Just assume you're always on body. Like, that's it. You're always being recorded. I mean, that's the safest thing. And you'll basically become dumb to it, and you'll be human, and you'll revert to your training. Being under constant surveillance is not a good thing. It's not good mentally. It's 100% not good in these scenarios. I mean, this is something that could cost you your life. You're literally, this is just more stuff on your brain. You're in a scenario. There's multiple people that are hostages. A cop was just shot. You're trying not to get shot. You're trying not to get anybody killed. You're trying to keep your team safe. And now, do you need to hear a beep in the middle of that? Beep. Oh, yeah, and I'm watching you, too, from the desk, and I'm going to scrutinize. You know what? Doesn't look like Marlon shaved today. I don't like the way Eric's boots look. Like, all this stuff. Like, I don't think that this is a good thing, And then Tom Joyce goes further to say that Axon's already working with multiple departments to AI generate reports, AI generate 61 aided, and it's going to feed off the tone of conversation. We're basically, and Tom, I know you're in the field, and like I listen to a lot of people that are in this AI space and this law enforcement surveillance space, and I get it. People got mouths to feed and people got things to do, but when I listen to these conversations, I'm like, do they realize that all they're talking about is circumventing the United States Constitution? Did they realize that what they're bringing is a huge surveillance state where basically unaccountable robots are going to control your every movement? We're creating a slave state is what we're doing. We're creating a slave state for the working class. That's all we're doing. And we have to start to really look at this. Like even these lefties, like Marlon has brilliantly pointed out, they're helping further it, and they know well. I don't know that they know they're doing it. I don't know. Like I wouldn't give them so much competence level, but they're doing it. They're helping to do it. And I think again that gate database. They want to get rid of the gang database, but they have for people who are actual gang members, and that information goes nowhere. But they have no problem with working class people walking down the block being put in a surveillance database for the NYPD, so the NYPD knows the way you walk and your exact movement. I mean, it makes no sense. It makes no sense, and that's exactly what's happening. Is we're just going to be. We talked multiple times about how body cameras remove the human element of policing. I go in a schoolyard. There's a couple of kids smoking pot. They're drinking beer. I toss them. Nobody has a weapon on them. I run them for warrants. Nobody's got a warrant. Nobody's wanted. I check their backgrounds, right? What do? We joke, clean your shit up and get out of here, right? Or hang out, keep the noise down, whatever. See you later. Human element of policing. Put body cameras in that. What happens? Those kids are all getting arrested. Those kids are all getting summons. Those kids all have records, right? Take it totally out. Why? Because body camera. Oh, I can't. My camera beat. My supervisor's watching. I don't have any discretion anymore at this point. And it's the same thing here. Now you have the CCRB is going to go through all the footage. CCRB is going to go through all the footage. So what are you doing? What were we always told with CCRB? If you have an interaction with someone, what do you do to protect yourself? You leave them with something, a summons, a 250, an arrest. You're taking the human element out of policing, and that is it. The human element of policing, if it's not already gone, this puts the nail in the coffin.
Yeah. I want to know, how do you have empathy when they clearly want robots for everything? So when does empathy come into play? You're gonna program empathy into the robot? You can't do that. So like where are we headed here? And the other question is, who's programming all of that? People need to understand, that even if you don't think this is a big deal, there's somebody programming the robot. Who the language, the learning language, the data that this is all trained on. Where's that coming from? And as we saw during the the scamdemic, do you really want to have a society where another scamdemic is declared, and now the robot is out there telling you that its protocols is telling you got to stay in your house? There's no negotiation. There's no I have to get to work, I have to do this, I have to so it's a dark road that we're heading down, and people need to I think there's going to have to be a human first movement at some point in the future before these things go completely off the rail, and just think of how screwed up this is. The same people who are pushing this stuff now, instead of them making laws that address the problems in society so that there's less people that need to interact with police, right? Instead of them fixing those issues, they're moving to create a greater police state. Well, under the rules that it's for the protection of civilians. Well, if you really want to protect the civilians, how about we address the conditions that create more crime on the streets to begin with? So therefore, if there's less crime, we need less cops, period. But no, they don't want to touch that. Again, they never want to touch that because that's where they get their crumbs from. Okay? They want to create the problems that allow them to create the solutions, which allow them to all profit off of. And the rest of us will live in a dystopian hell from it.
Obviously, the city council doesn't care what I'm about to mention, but we do, and that's why we're talking about it. So there was a time. I think it was maybe about 2 years ago, maybe even more, where John and I really started to explore the body-worn cameras. And I remember I contacted numerous psychologists trying to get a synopsis or any analysis on the psychological effects for a police officer that wears a body camera all day. I'm not a psychologist, neither is John, but we both agree that there has to be some serious psychological effects and trauma for a police officer donning a body camera all day. For one, there's no doubt about it. I believe that this leads to heightened anxiety and anticipatory stress. And for that, the police officers are already overextended with a mass exodus. They're exhausted. To me, this just leads to more emotional exhaustion. Not only is there going to be an after-action review, but being watched in real time. And if it's not an actual person watching real time, but an AI, exactly what we said, an AI subjected review in real time, to me, that leads to emotional exhaustion and more of a cortisol dump. And definitely shake your decision making. This definitely puts you on shaky ground when it comes to making a decision, because there's not going to be an after action review. There's a review in real time of how you're operating. And so for that, I think police officers will actually even use different body language. They're going to over explain things and over police in a sense that try to do things extremely by the book. And sometimes that's just the reality of police work, right? That patrol guide and even case law are guides, and policing is not a one size fits all, and it's forever evolving, and no two jobs or no two interactions are ever the same. And the Civilian Complaint Review Board doesn't have the training to even understand that, and neither does AI. And that's the other part that's really the missing link. Because if AI is doing a review, AI is strictly black and white. It's not going to be able to measure the emotions involved in a situation by a civilian complainant, or a situation where police officers involved in arrest, where police officers have that human element to make an observation that the person that they're dealing with, their person of interest or their adversary, is potentially lying to them. The AI can't determine that based on their tone or based on the movement of the eyes and the facial expressions, something that AI can't actually make a determination on. So this is going to be extremely subjective. So I had said it earlier, and Marlon had expanded on it, is this has to be programmed by who? Most likely Civilian Complaint Review Board, which already has a bias and disdain towards police officers and towards the profession itself. So it's going to be extremely subjective in how these AI, the AI analysis is going to be administered. So this is a major problem. I unfortunately, there's no doubt in my mind this will pass. And this is just another nail in the coffin. I mean, we say it time and time again. When we think it can't get more ridiculous than it already is, it does. There's just oversight after oversight, layer after layer. And eventually, I'm pretty confident at some point, the majority of the profession will be taken over by AI and robotics. And we're slowly moving to that. Defund the police was the first step. And now with AI and robotics and oversight and more control, it's chipping away at the police department. And that's why they don't care about the manpower, because eventually it's all going to turn to AI and robotics. It's going to be AI review, but your police response is going to be a robot. And I'm confident that's going to come in the near future.
All right. Fungo Hitter says confirmed, not likely condition. All right. Thanks, Fungo. Everyone is under. I don't know what you mean by that, Sleepy Joe. Did they bring the situation to a conclusion, or I don't know. I don't know what they mean by that. Everyone is under. All right. Oh, everyone's under. I think he's talking about just the body camera. Gotcha. Okay. So one, I think, 100%. I mean, the mental health and well being of officers is that no one cares about. Like that's a very obvious. I mean, most cops now, big city police, if you work in a metropolitan area, you're on the street for sometimes even less than a decade, but definitely over a decade. When you retire, when you begin to decompress from that job, if you're a conscientious person, if you were a competent cop, if you were aware of the dangers that were around you every day and you went out and you did actual observation of police work, you will 100% experience anxiety later on in life. You will on 100%, you already have a trained paranoia in you, whether you know it or not. You're paranoid. You're extremely paranoid individual. If you're a good cop, you're paranoid. That's like that. It's without a doubt. You're sitting down to go eat, you're paranoid. You're at a fall festival farmer market, you're paranoid. You're at a concert, you're paranoid. And so like this stuff catches up with you later. Now let's add in the fact that you're constantly being surveilled. Now at work, we always say as a police officer, you're constantly scrutinized, right? But it's not every second of the day, right? You handle the situation, you go back, and now the scrutiny kicks in. Sometimes that scrutiny lasts for an hour. Sometimes it lasts for a week. Sometimes it lasts for years. Sometimes it lasts for your entire career. But now that scrutiny is actually going to happen right from the onset of the job and even during the job. So, I mean, I don't know like what this does to the mental health and well-being of police officers. I think it burns cops out much quicker. I think it's a multiplier. I think it's definitely going to be a force multiplier where cops will be burned out much quicker. Forget 20 years. Cops after 5 years aren't going to even they're not going to want to transfer to a slowed down place. They're going to want to just not be in the profession at all, altogether. And we've been doing that time after time after time again. And then just to go back on the whole technology thing, Tom Joyce, he alluded to like technology has always been ahead of the law, and I will 100% agree with you. And I think it'll always be like that, right? Because our lawmakers are truly the worst of us. They're truly the most incompetent of us, and they make law based upon who's feeding their pocket, not upon what's prudent for the people, what's good for the people, what's constitutionally sound. So I agree with you on that. And they're just not the smartest people that are out there. But the people that are creating this technology should really be thinking about what's happening at this point. We've never, the point we're at now is not anything that we've experienced in the past at all. Like how fast technology is expanding and increasing. We should be doing a pause right now. Like, wait a minute, time out, because Marlon had alluded to it. He said human first. There needs to be a human first movement in the future. I agree with you. There needs to be a human first movement, but I think that should have already happened years ago. I think we should already be ahead of the curve on this because we're clearly watching where we're being funneled into and where we're going. And, listening to the technology companies, listening to the Axons, the Skydios, the Constitution is not in their purview at all. It doesn't help their bottom line. It doesn't help them grow and expand. It doesn't help them create jobs. It doesn't help them make money. But it certainly helps a totalitarian government. It's certainly helping to create 1984 here. And I don't want that future for our kids. Now, we're more than likely going to experience some real crazy stuff in the next decade or to 20 years. So we'll still be here for most of it. But I mean, I think we're leading our kids and our future generations into a real dystopian future by acting like this is normal and this is the normal course of how technology grows and how the laws upkeep. I don't think so. I think, and it's specifically related around law enforcement and the Fourth Amendment. And, we're talking about how this violates the Fourth Amendment of just police officers, regular police officers. Again, you're in the bathroom, your body camera's turned to you for whatever reason, and boom, your sergeant can go live at any time, even if your body camera's off. I mean, is that not a huge fault? You're on the phone with your wife on your break, and your body camera could go live. Sergeant, CCRB. We're talking about it then. Imagine when. What does it look like not for cops? What does it look like for people who are just walking down the block? Oh, look, John's gait matches someone that could have possibly did a robbery. All right, let's bring him in and interrogate him. Because no, that gives us probable cause. It's like, wait, what? And so this we really got to get ahead of the curve, and we're not ahead of the curve. We're like way behind the curve. Way behind it. Super scary what's happening, man. Super scary.
Yeah. It gets worse, because the thing is, once you give CCRB access to that footage, right? Why stop there? Why not let's give Department of Buildings access too. Let's give sanitation, DEP, the FD, whichever agency, in the city that needs access. Let's give them all access to it. Maybe the cop who's doing a vertical in your building could feed that data to the Department of Buildings, and they can come and maybe they'll see something wrong in your building and come and inspect it from the camera. Maybe their AI will analyze the data and say, oh, you know what, we can let's give this guy a fine right now and mail him a fine. Why stop there? Let's keep going on this. Every city agency is now going to be plugged into that data, and they're all going to do what they do in the city, which is find a way to fine you, okay, and find a way to justify their bureaucracy. And this is what's coming. So even if you think, oh, this is not a big deal, this is not a big deal. You got to look down the road and see what this is inviting, and it's not going to be good. And the other thing to think about, the example John just brought up, right? Think of all the data that they're going to have on you. So now they know the color of your house. They know what the interior of your house is. They know, what you were watching on TV when the cops came in the house. They know, think of all this data that they're going to have on you. Okay. And what they could possibly do with that data, how they could make a pattern of life for you off of that data. And again, it's a dark road that we're heading down, and it doesn't do anything to improve the product of policing, which isn't the goal. Isn't CCRB's entire goal to make sure police are accountable? Well, how exactly police are accountable, and we train better cops, and we improve the product of the NYPD. So how exactly does this improve the product? How exactly does it improve the product? It creates, when it's cops who feel they're going to be watched and scrutinized in real time, every time they're on patrol, they're going to feel bitter. They're going to feel bitterness, and they're going to feel stressed and unhappy, and they're going to reflect that bitterness and unhappiness onto the public themselves. Okay. And again, if you have an unhappy cop, that unhappy cop he's not going to provide the best service to the public. Okay. So again, this doesn't help the inherent product of policing.
Stay trained up says, how you doing, my friend, by the way? Says, I don't think so, Eric. He's referring to when I mentioned that cops ultimately will be replaced by AI and robotics. And I do believe that. He says the human element is still needed. So I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I do believe the human element is needed. However, I do believe that they foresee, and I say they, that's law enforcement agencies and leftist politics, when we see control, and also from the right, is that the police profession can ultimately be replaced and supplemented with AI and robotics. So I could foresee maybe, we have a team of police response, which is robotics, and maybe there is a human element. There's one actual sergeant to oversee 5 or 6 robots. I foresee that happening. Now, I'm not saying it's right, because, again, I've said AI and robotics would have that actual robot programmed. It would be extremely subjective, what they're supposed to look for, keywords. But what it's missing is that human element. What I spoke about is making that observation, emotions that are involved, where someone could be lying, a facial expression, or a subtle body movement that is a behavioral indicator that someone may have an illegal firearm or that danger is imminent, right? What John spoke about earlier, being paranoid. Being paranoid is not necessarily a bad thing. You know, in the Japanese culture, paranoia is actually considered an honor, right? That you're a person of skill if you're paranoid, right? And that's what police officers are, people of skill. That's why they're paranoid, because they see things that others don't see. Quite often it happens to me, still does in retirement. I know John and Marlon, myself, we talk about this often. Anyone retired here, this probably happens to you, especially if you're an active police officer. You're out in a restaurant, you sit with your family, and your family's in total bliss. They're having a good time. They don't pay attention to things you see, you know, and you're looking around and you see someone sitting down, and you made an observation. Someone had a knife clipped in their pocket. You made an observation that you thought maybe someone was in possession of a firearm. Especially for me, I'm outside New York City, and traveling, and I see it often where people are just carrying firearms, you know, very comfortably in states like Alaska, Montana, where, you know, and I make those observations, you know, who's carrying a firearm, where they're carrying, if it's concealed carry or open carry. So this human element cannot be replaced, but I do believe that the left and the right are trying to replace it, and not just use AI and robotics to supplement the human element, but I believe they'll have the human element supplement the AI and robotics. So I do believe, I know it's hard for us to envision, but just as we see, you know, was it Waymo, where you know, cars are unmanned, robotics driving around? I do believe eventually you will see that with the police response, and it will be the human element to oversee it. This is scary times, but I do believe this is where we're headed, and it's not in the next lifetime; it's in our lifetime.
No, yeah, and the other thing is like the AI. Like, people make like AIs. AI is cool, but it's totally biased. I mean, I was playing with it for the mayoral election, and I would ask it, did Eric Adams support the defund the police movement? And it would be like, no, he was a staunch advocate against it. And then I would be like, here's him on this podcast where he says he wants to defund the police by $600 million to $1 billion. Doesn't that mean that he supported the defund the police movement? And I'd be like, no, this, that, the other thing. I'm like, explain to me the basis of defund the police movement. Defund the police movement was they wanted to move $600 million to $1 billion out of the police budget and put it towards, and I'm like, well, that's exactly what he said he wanted to do here. So, well, I guess you could make that point, right? And I did it with ChatGPT, I did it with Microsoft, I did it with X's thing, and it was all the same thing. There is a built-in narrative in all of AI. You know what I mean? And same thing when you went to Andrew Cuomo. So like, AI is completely biased. Another point that a friend brought up about this is like, right now what happens is for privacy protection of individuals, for protection for prosecution cases, CCRB requests this video. Those videos go to the CCRB liaison unit, which now falls under legal, right? It now falls under the legal bureau. So me and my 3 detectives were replaced by 1 lieutenant, 3 sergeants, and 20-something people. So, because competence is up there in the NYPD. So just think about that, the amount of money they've spent since I left on that one unit. But so that unit, what they do is, so the basis of that unit is what they do is they get a body camera request or they get a document request from CCRB. First off, they make sure that the CCRB is entitled to get that they actually do in fact have a case, a complainant and a complaint against that officer. And then they're like, okay, CCRB is entitled to that. Okay, now that footage needs to be redacted, right? Maybe there's a rape victim information in there. Maybe there's a minor's information in there. Maybe there's just things that shouldn't be released publicly. We know the 2 biggest leakers to the media are, definitely, well, 3, I should say. It's One Police Plaza. It's people in One Police Plaza. It is also the DA's office and the Civilian Complaint Review Board, right? So that the chance of that video getting out after it gets to the Civilian Complaint Review Board is extremely high. So, but there's cases that they don't have purview over, like a shooting case. like a case that's a criminal case that they have no purview over that case. That case is in court. They could potentially taint that case. So now if they have complete, utter access to the NYPD's body camera system, all of those safeguards are removed. Now, are those safeguards perfect? No, they're not, because humans are doing them. They had some form of AI doing it. And I just said how flawed AI is. So the safeguards aren't even perfect as the way it sits based upon the amount of requests that they get each year. But those safeguards, if this bill passes, those safeguards completely come down and are completely removed. Like, that's it. There's no more redacting of information. Doesn't matter if there's a criminal case going on. It doesn't matter if there's a shooting investigation going on. The CCRB has direct access to view that body camera. I mean, that's a big problem, because there's nothing in that bill that says anything about that there's going to be different access levels. There's nothing in that bill that says anything like that. So if that bill says that CCRB gets access to the NYPD body-worn camera footage database, that means they have unfettered access to it. That's it. And the law will set them up. Yeah. Will legal try to push back initially? Yeah. Will the police try to push back initially? Yeah. They'll try to push back initially. But guess what? Ultimately, that law passed. Ultimately, they will lose every single one of those battles, and they know they'll lose every single one of those battles, just like all the police unions when they put up their frivolous, bogus lawsuits against the mandate. They knew they were going to lose, but they just did it to save face and so that you didn't sue them for non-representation. It was all done in conjunction with each other. So the police department, if you think that anybody in that police department cares, including the police commissioner, if CCRB gets complete, utter access to monitor you at your house, to monitor your kids in school, you're out of your mind. Nobody cares. They don't care about you. I mean, we could just, I don't know how much proof you need at this point, but the billionaire class and their appointed cronies could care less about you, your family, your safety, your health, your well-being, or your life. As a matter of fact, I personally believe they like it when you guys get killed, because they get to have a funeral and go sit there and talk about how much they support and care about the rank and file of the NYPD when they could give two shits about you.
Yeah. And I'm going to say they especially don't care about you and care about your concerns for this, because they'll have plenty of opportunities to work for Wall Street if they go along with the program. We've already talked about how, like, the chiefs are very intertwined with Wall Street and with the city's ruling class via their security firms when they retire. And the same thing is for the unions. It's all one big club, and they're all incentivized to keep on trucking and keep on, pushing pushing the AI surveillance state even further along. And I'm also going to say that CCRB getting these powers it pushes the goalposts a little bit closer, because once CCRB gets these powers, we know we're moving towards AI. But what's going to happen is how easier is it going to be to transition CCRB to some other agency, to make it something else at that point, where they have access, where you, like Chief Lukash said before, you don't need the PC you no longer need the PC to have any say in the process. It'll all be AI from this agency that CCRB will become. And again, it benefits who are the people on the CCRB board. There are people who have very few police experience, most of them, and a lot of them are, they're prominent people in the community, prominent people with money, and think how much incentives there are to push this along. How are they connected to Wall Street? I'm sure they all are. I'm sure the people at the top all are. So again, all these people are incentivized to push this further along, and I'm going to say they will do it. Yeah.
John, I got to laugh at this one. Captain and Coke 70. What's up, my brother? It says body cams going forward. Eric will still wrestle grizzly bears, and John will still be doing pull-ups. Oh yeah. Listen, you know what? It's laughable that we're actually talking about this because we know the realities and the silver lining of CCRB watching body camera by the actual human element or AI doing it. It's just completely biased itself. It's impossible for this to be completely transparent and neutral for both sides. And when I say both sides, for the police officer and the adversary in any encounter they take part in, whether that's an investigation, whether it's a person of interest, or whether it's an arrest. It's impossible for this to be neutral because the role of the Civilian Complaint Review Board is to investigate on behalf of the civilian complainants. And they actually testified. Arva Rice herself, the acting chair at the time of the Civilian Complaint Review Board, testified to the city council in a conversation with Bob Holden, Democratic City Council, that the Civilian Complaint Review Board does not take into the account of both sides of the coin, just the perception, the emotions involved of the civilian complainant. How do you measure emotions when it comes to AI? So this is definitely a missing link, and that's the problem. It doesn't measure. AI is a good tool, but it's missing a lot of links when you have an interaction, subtle movements of the eye, just facial expressions, certain tones. These are things that AI cannot measure when it comes to the observational skills that police officers have. I think this is so intrusive by the Civilian Complaint Review Board, and it's just a complete overreach. And for the fact the city council to actually propose this bill shows you who actually has the power in the city and who actually has control of the NYPD. And it's actually more than the mayor. It's actually city council. The city council is actually, to me, in my opinion, the most dangerous apparatus to the city. I used to think it was the Civilian Complaint Review Board. But to empower the Civilian Complaint Review Board, it needs to be the person driving that car, and that's the city council. So I think the city council is actually the most dangerous apparatus to the city right now. To me, this is insane, moving further into a surveillance state. So we're now surveilling. This is not about accountability and after action and a review. This is not a review. This is exactly what Marlon said early on in this episode. It is surveillance of the police officer. And I think this is just going to be emotionally draining for a police officer. John said it earlier. This is going to lead to burnout. I agree. It's going to lead to burnout, and it's going to lead to early retirements, resignations. People are going to leave the profession. They already are leaving the profession, but this is just burn the candle on both ends. Police officers are exhausted. Fox, you're right. City council is dangerous. Look, bill after bill to chip away at the police department. So if the mayor is not actively defunding the police, the city council is, and so is the CCRB. So the NYPD is getting hit on all ends. And who pays for it? It's the residents of New York City that pay for this. That's who pays for it. And they pay for it with their convenience. They pay for it with their emotions, how they feel in the city. They pay for it with their own safety.
Chief Luke Cash is reporting that he's hearing the perp is DOA in the 7-3. Chief, if you got anything else, let us know. I haven't seen anything yet. So hopefully everybody else is all right. Let's see what happens. Let's see what comes out of that. There's a weird comment in here. What was that comment? I want the Israeli surveillance and training out of the NYPD. What do you guys think? So, all right. So Israel, like, they have some good technology, right? Skydio comes out of Israel. A lot of other, like, AI, robotic stuff comes out of Israel. Some of the training in the NYPD, maybe you could say, comes from the IDF. But I personally think that police officers should get the best training, regardless of where it's from, if it comes from Israel or if it comes from Palestine. I think those are just political talking points. I think that Israel is a surveillance state, and I think we're looking to replicate that over here, and I don't think that we should. I don't think, that we have a constitution. They don't. That's why we're America, they're Israel. So I'm not really concerned what Israel's doing, but I support officers having the best resources and having the best tools available and having the best training available. So, I mean, and like I said, I don't really care where that training comes from or where those resources come from. As long as they're deployed in a constitutional manner, I have no problem with it. I think that we should always seek to have the best equipment and the best training in the NYPD. The talking points about Israel, I mean, I don't know where that came from with Zohran Mamdani when he said that if the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, you know it's been laced by the IDF. I have no idea what he's talking about. I don't know what the DSA is talking about when they say that. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's a ridiculous statement. It's like we're a local police force. We are the largest police force in the world. But I don't think the IDF's controlling the NYPD, and I don't think Israel's controlling the NYPD, even though there is a billionaire heiress, Jewish heiress in charge of it. I still think that the idea and the functionality of the police department is to provide public safety and to protect and preserve life, which you see they clearly just did today again.
Well, I saw that comment by Aria, and I'm gonna agree with her. I'm gonna say that now the left is correct when they say that NYPD is connected to Israel. They absolutely are. We have a detective who's embedded there. I think he was just called back here. If you look at all these technology companies we're partnered with, they all have connections to Israel. Axon, Palantir, Skydio, OpenAI, they're all connected to Israel. Israel itself is, I don't want to go deep into it here, but it's, there's a lot of connections to the deep state and there's a lot of connections to China too. And I think China is the model that they want in the West, and they're going to do it through Israel, and because Israel is already a surveillance state over there. And so I agree with that. And the left has one thing right about that. Their nonsense with the boot on the neck of people from the NYPD is garbage. Okay. And that's the problem with like Zohan. They'll tell you half truths and then fold it into a leftist bias, when it really should be. There are issues there that both the left and the right can agree on, and that's we don't want to live in a surveillance state, by any, led by any country, and not even ours. We don't want to live like that. But I was gonna say that. Well, I'll come back to it, but I was gonna say that we talked about the scamdemic and how detrimental it was to due process, but I'm gonna say that it seems when you zoom out that there's clearly an attack going on in due process, and if we're heading down this track, there's clearly going to be. I don't see how you're going to have due process when the AI is going to be the one, with the final say on everything.
Mike Smith, what's up, my brother? Mike Smith makes a great comment here. I think this is an important comment. We have intel cops in certain areas to gather information. Absolutely right, brother. We still are a local police force. That's absolutely right. So to make the comparison from IDF to the NYPD is absolutely ridiculous. It's a complete different mission. The IDF is a military force that's made up of army forces in Israel and also naval warfare forces in comparison to the NYPD, which is a police force. So to make that comparison is just absolutely ridiculous and insane. Completely different mission. The NYPD is still a police force, and you're absolutely right. Now, do we need to have so much focus on what goes on in Israel? Not necessarily. We can use it to gather intelligence. Yes, we have a lot of dual citizenship of residents of New York City, and that cohabitate in Israel and back and forth. Yes, we have a lot of New Yorkers that have family in Israel and back and forth. I mean, arguably, there might be more Jews in New York City than there are in Israel. I think Israel, the total population, is less than New York State. So we might actually have more Jews in New York City with ties to Israel. But again, we have all walks of life with ties to different countries from New York City throughout the entire world. So I just think it's a complete insanity and just shows more anti-Semitism and with this focus on Israel. It's not necessary. We need to put America first, and especially when we talk about New York City, we need to put New York City first before we worry about foreign affairs. Do some of these foreign affairs affect us internally within the states? Absolutely, they do, and we should focus on how it affects us internally. But those external factors, and we need to pay more attention to what goes on here. It's just a complete farce, and it's more it's driven to cause hate and bias within New York City and cause peril amongst the community in New York City. Just a complete farce.
Yeah. So Aria says, well, we need to make sure that Israel doesn't have access to our surveillance. This is my concern. First of all, no foreign nation should have access to our surveillance system at all. I don't care if they're our allies at this moment in time or not. None of our officials should be taking bribes from foreign nations. But we've brushed that off in the golden age of America. Like that's fine. Like we haven't seen a problem. So I have a lot of problems with the connections to Israel. What's his face was Eric Adams was in what's it called? He was in Israel yesterday. He goes to the wall. He's kissing the wall, and he tells the people at the event, "I served you." Like, what are you talking about? Who'd you serve? Because you certainly didn't serve Jewish New Yorkers in New York City. Because since October 7th, 2023, there have been nightly shutdowns of critical infrastructure in New York City. Nothing's been done about it. The rise in anti-Semitic hate crimes against Jews have risen over 100%. So who'd you serve? Did you serve the oligarchs in Israel? Because you certainly didn't serve the poor working class Jew in New York City. Certainly didn't serve those people. We had Jewish students in campuses across New York City that weren't allowed to attend class, weren't allowed in their dorms, had numerous hate crimes done against them and on campus. And you were told by Eric Adams that he needed a letter from the university to go respond to a 911 call when there was a fire set, there was burglaries happening, there was thefts happening, and there was criminal mischief happening. I've never heard of this in my life where you could call 911 and now all of a sudden, no, that's private property. That's the same thing as saying, well, you know what? You could do whatever you want in your house. You could sell drugs. You could do whatever. It's private property. You need a letter from the owner to come on. That's what Eric Adams told you. And Fox News and Newsmax bought it hook, line, and sinker and started pushing that same garbage. They're waiting for a letter from Columbia University. So I don't like all that. And the other thing I don't like when I look at politicians like Mike Lawler or the other failed congressman, Anthony, whatever the hell his name was, former NYPD detective, sitting there and saying that any criticism of a foreign government means you're anti-Semitic. Absolutely not. I'm sick of hearing it. I'm sick of the nonsense. Like, here's my thing. I'm America only. Not just America first. I'm America only. I don't give a shit about Israel. I don't give a shit about the Ukraine. I don't give a shit about Palestine. I don't even want to talk about it at all. It shouldn't be in local politics whatsoever. At all. And then here you got, I actually, the one thing on the debate stage that I liked is when everyone said that Zohran said is like when everyone said, oh, I'm good. My first trip, I'm going to Israel. And Zohran's like, well, I'm staying in New York City where I belong. And the first thing he did is he went to Puerto Rico the minute he won the election and got elected. So no, he didn't stay in New York City. It didn't matter about New York City. So like that's my thing. Like we're all getting warped up into international affairs, and we shouldn't. We should hold our own elected officials accountable. We should hold our own police departments accountable, and we should ensure that they all adhere to the same laws that are enforced on us and that are constitutionally compliant. If any foreign government has access to our surveillance system, our politicians are traitors. They should be swinging. That's the end of the story. It's treason.
Yeah, absolutely, John. Absolutely. Yeah, I just see a new article out now about the suspect. I guess we'll talk about that before we close the show off. I'm not sure if it says anything new on it, but it's definitely in the post now.
It says that I'm sorry about that. I meant to say that, but I just so sick of that conversation because it's constant, dude. It's just constantly in my threads that like you're an anti-Semite if you disagree with Israel. You're an anti-Semite if you disagree with Trump. You're an anti-Semite if you're a Christian because I believe in the New Testament. It's like, well, how about you're anti-Catholic then? How about you're anti-American? Like, so sick of that shit. But it says that the guy, it says that the perp offed himself, and the one cop's in stable condition, grazed in the face. And the two cops that responded, the gentleman was not the gentleman, excuse me. The perp was a homicide suspect. And when he opened up fire on the officers, they both returned fire on him, but he ultimately took his own life. So I guess we could say it came to a successful conclusion. I don't believe there was anyone else injured, according to the New York Post at this time, subject to change.
Yeah. Again, prayers to the cop. Let's hope he gets a speedy recovery and he can, get back to his, everyday routines. And it's good to keep in mind here, guys, that this happened in the 7-3 precinct, and we've talked about the 7-3 before. How they have that Brooklyn, that civilian nonsense going on. Basically, a civilian police force that monitors a couple blocks in the precinct for like a couple weeks out of the year, and how underserved that area is in terms of all the resources they need. Now, instead of city council focusing on these communities, which have been like, havens for like high crime and poverty and you name it for decades, instead of doing that, no, we're gonna do something that hurts the policing even more. Instead of fixing the problems that require there to be more cops over there. Again, the bills like that don't serve anybody. They don't help the public. They don't help any communities. And just to go back on the surveillance and the connection to Israel, when we keep in mind, half the people in Israel themselves are critical of their government. So when we criticize Israel, we're criticizing the elites and the government. We're not talking about people. We're not talking about the Jewish community. And by the way, Israel themselves hurts their own Jewish community, because look at what they did during the scamdemic to the Hasidic community. Okay? So we're talking about the elites who don't care about you. They don't care if you're the same religion, same ethnicity. They don't care. Okay? They care about their own interests. They care about the crumbs they're going to get from all of this, and they care about their own agenda. Okay? So, this whole trying to fit criticism into anti-Semitism is just ridiculous. And a police state in any part of America and New York is not good for the Jewish community, because remember, somebody's programming those robots. Okay. And just think, if the Nazi Germany had robots, okay? I mean, they didn't have robots, and look what happened. Now imagine the conditions evolve where you have a state like that now has AI and robots. Do you want that? So this is not this police state isn't good for any community. Okay.
Absolutely not. This is, in fact, what I said earlier. If we dive into this, it's just dangerous. The city council, in my opinion, has become a dangerous apparatus to New York City. It hurts the residents of New York City. It hurts the police department. Ultimately, hurts crime. And we've talked about it numerous times. And the more we talk about it, we have to come to the realization that your local politics, and especially your city council, is actually the strongest apparatus, and we actually have to dive into and knowing who's part of the city council and how to start voting better and vote some of these people out that have never had a real job or understanding of New York City. Some of the people that are in city council just have a complete bias and disdain for police work, and they just want to eradicate the profession. And again, we see chip away. It's death by 1,000 cuts to the profession. And I said it earlier, can AI and robotics take over policing? Sure. If you think it can't, you're not paying attention. The question is, will it be suffice, and will it be an operational apparatus for the police department? And it can be if we alleviate and take out discretion and emotions involved and those observation skills that are necessary that the human element provides. I think the city council might say, well, we don't need it. We don't need it. They want it to be a black and white profession. And if they want to use the human element, what do we know? They're going to supplement it with social workers. And here we go. We move into Zohran Mamdani, who's going to be the mayor, and that's the plan for community public safety. So we can continue to defund the police. We can replace the human element with robots who will be programmed, and they can assist the social worker, community apparatus, the community safety teams that are going to operate in New York City. So ultimately, that's why, in my opinion, we don't hear Zohran Mamdani talking about how we have to beef up the police force. And this idea that we need 40,000 police officers doesn't fit and doesn't coincide right now at all. And I don't think they care. I don't think they care if it goes down to 5,000 police officers. That will actually just be more motivation and drive and precision policing for them to get these robots to continue in that manner and have the social workers program the robots and supplement, and they'll be the human element that actually monitors, and they'll be able to collaborate with CCRB and have a great relationship with them. I mean, the way we're going right now, we won't have a police force. And you know what? They may say it's cost effective. They won't have to worry about pensions. They won't have to worry about sick plans. They won't have to worry about vacation. And you won't even have to worry about racial or biased policing because we won't be dealing with the human element. You'll be strictly a robot. Coming soon.
Yeah, totally. And just back to the shooting, Inspector Layson says, cops guarding homicide crime scene when perp returns and opens fire on cops, according to the Post. So they were just guarding the crime scene and he showed up. And Chief Lukash reports no EDP social workers or violence interrupters were injured. So thanks for the thanks for the report, Chief.
That was a key element right there. That was a point.
None of them were injured. So, but I listen, I think like my last point on all this, I think it's a lot more nefarious than just blaming a bunch of lefties on the left. I think that this is the billionaire class looking to really exempt themselves from laws. So if you have a future where there are not men, actually by men, I mean humans, in policing, and you move to an AI robotic type of policing, then it's okay. You could go to that little island and be a pedophile and no one's ever going to investigate you, and you could cheat on your taxes and you could defraud the federal government and you could get a legal contract and no one's going to look into you. And basically what they're doing, and it's being pushed from both the left and the right, is they're completely emasculating and neutering law enforcement across this country. And where they're going to put this totalitarian AI robotic driven system that's just going to be weaponized against the masses. So you can't jaywalk. You can't drive 40 miles an hour in your car, but the elite could do whatever they want and free from the eyes of scrutiny, free from the hands of the law. And I think that's really ultimately what's happening. And our politicians, they're just useful idiots, and it just depends what's team they're playing for. That's all. Like, but it's all part of those same billionaires that are manipulating that whole class. So that's what I think. I think ultimately what we're seeing is this country and a lot of countries are just ran by a bunch of vampire class, like Marlon says, billionaires, who are a bunch of pedo Satan worshippers who probably are lizard people, like Alex Jones said. Like, that's what I ultimately think. I think that when I watch what the hell's happening, like I can't even say that, oh yeah, no. It's the Democrats, because the right's just as guilty of it. When you look at Trump's, I'm going to bring in the armed guard and I'm going to bring in the army and I'm going to take over the streets. What is he ultimately saying? He's telling you that your police departments are not competent. He's telling you that your police departments are neutered, that they're emasculated, that they can't do anything. They're not able to provide law. I have to provide that for you as the federal government. And you may be well all and dandy because you're Team MAGA. How are you going to feel when AOC is your president? You're not going to feel too great, right? Not going to think it's too good if Joe Biden was your president. So we're really playing a very, very short-term game here in America right now, and we're not looking at the long-term effects of it. And we're allowing corporations and billionaires to circumvent our laws and enslave us. And we're all working hard to be those slaves and to make sure our children are enslaved and to make sure these pedo billionaires are kept safe and kept out of the eyes of scrutiny. And they could appoint guys like Dan Bongino and Kash Patel who have no problem making themselves look like complete cucks.
Yeah. And again, it's all connected. Now, have you guys ever got on if you have an iPhone, you notice if you go to the charging section, it tells you something about if you want to charge about charging when rates for electricity are at its lowest. And there's some other things that they're trying to push like that for us to use energy at the lowest, like when the rates are the cheapest. And so the reason why I'm bringing that up here is because the whole problem with their agenda on from their end is they need a lot of energy for this, right? And if they want to have robots in the police department and drones and all this, it's going to need a lot of energy. And New York State doesn't have the energy for it right now, right? They're trying to build a nuclear reactor upstate, but it's not there yet. So they're going to need a lot of energy for this. So my question is what is coming down the pipeline from government now that's going to try and like force us into using less energy? That's something I've been thinking about lately. And somebody brings up the thermostat in there. Yeah, the thermostat tells you now if you want to let us control your to let us like let the AI control the temperature in your thermos. It's all because of energy. It's because they want you to use less of it so they have more of it for their robots and drones. So the one good thing we have right now that's going to delay all of this is they're going to need a lot of energy for it. And New York State is so unfriendly to businesses that they don't have the facilities yet. Okay, but I kind of wonder if they're going to make new laws, especially Mandani, who is certainly in bed with these leftists who, the climate cult. I wonder what laws or what policies they're going to push under him and under Hochul too, that are going to try and force us to use less of it so they could have more of it for these initiatives. So yeah, it's something for you guys, something I just thought about and something for you to keep an eye out on.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. I think that all this weaves together, and I like to get back onto the AI and robotics, and I think it's just a matter of time. And I think it's going to be supplemented in drips and drabs, just as we see the city council chip away at the police department. So if you're an active police officer, I do think, and I don't think we're far away from it. I think maybe by 2030, maybe by 2035. I think maybe by 2030, I would say, where you might be a police officer and you report to work one day in the 7-3 precinct. They say, all right, you go to roll call and you know what, Dim, you got your partner today is Robot 6 and you're in whichever car that has AI inside the car. I don't know, car number 675, and that car is going to produce your reports all day. You're not even going to drive. The car is going to drive itself. It's going to be programmed all day, and you'll be working with a robot. It's just a matter of time. I don't think we're that far away from it. I really think that we are within a couple of years of that, of the human element being supplemented and assisted by robotics, and eventually to the point where we'll see the tides turned and the torch passed, and it will be robots in control and taking over. And we'll have, as I said before, maybe we'll have a sergeant oversee 8 robots, or maybe there'll be some form of breakdown. But I do believe that's coming. I do believe, and I don't believe, as I said earlier, I don't believe it's in the next lifetime. I believe it's in our lifetime, and so we need to pay attention to that. And that we talk about the relationship with cops and community and mending that. That's going to, create more distance and far remove the police department from the community. But in the end, or maybe in the beginning, Zohran Mamdani, when he actually takes his chair and tenure as mayor, we could easily move into that. I mean, this idea of the community safety team, and we don't hear any fears about the danger to these social workers or violence interrupters and to these civilians. That maybe the reason why we don't hear about the dangers is because maybe this is the plan. This is the plan to have AI and robotics ultimately take over the entire profession, and that's how they'll figure out or supplement the safety of social workers. That's the only thing I can envision at this point. It's just assumptions and observations, but I do believe that we are very close to getting there.
Okay. I think we're already there. They just have humans pushing the same garbage. They have humans acting as robots right now. I mean,
yeah,
I mean, come on. Do you interact with any of some of these guys? I'm like, dude, are you there? Like,
Yeah.
I know what they told you in the academy, and you clicked on the thing, but like, is your brain working? You know, like I you know, and don't get me wrong, I was guilty of it too as a rookie. I was like, oh no, you know, this, that, you know, I was like scared of my own shadow, like coming out. But like eventually, I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, you start to smarten up, you learn the job. But like now, today, I don't think there is a human element in policing anymore. And I think body cameras did that in. And I think the dystopian future you heard of, you could go back to 2008. You heard Barack Obama say it. I want a civilian police force that's just as large and just as well funded as our military. What does that mean? What are you talking about? Why do we need a civilian police force? And then he pushed the whole cap and trade. And what cap and trade was it was redistribution of wealth. It was a communist idea. It was, oh, you own a home, you're going to get X amount of carbon credits. You live in the projects, John's going to have to pay for carbon credits because he owns a home, but you live in the projects, so you don't use all your carbon credits, so you're going to get a check for the carbon credits you didn't use. And it was basically redistribution of wealth. Who's going to enforce all of this? It's either going to be a robot, a hand puppet human, or it's going to be an actual robot. I mean, and what you're seeing is a completely diminished service. Here we are, over 20 years later, almost 20 years later. And like what's happening? That's what's happening right now. How many crimes do we actually investigate anymore in the New York City Police Department? None. I mean, all the stuff that we did when we were cops, it doesn't happen anymore. You know, package theft, graffiti, petty larceny, theft from auto, all these things. Cops won't even respond anymore. They tell you to go online and make your own police report. So you make a report, it's documented, and you send that to your insurance company, but nobody actually ever investigates that, and nobody actually gets arrested for it. So we're already there. We just haven't changed off where we're not paying these guys and giving them healthcare. That's the only part we haven't changed off. Like, we're already there. You know, when you're going to community council meetings and you're telling them that your car's getting crushed, your neighborhood's getting crushed with car break-ins, and the commanding officer that commands telling you there's nothing they could do because there's so many of them, and the district attorney doesn't draw them up anyway, there is no human element to policing anymore. There's no care. There's nobody to go to. Like, it's over at this point, you know? So, I mean, and all this dystopian shit, you heard it in 2008, whether, you know, people want to say, oh, this sounds like a conspiracy theory podcast. Well, you know, we've been telling you it's slow step to emasculate an already neutered New York City Police Department. And basically for 3 years, you've watched a neutered police department get even more emasculated and more like that. That's all it is. It's just they're becoming a feckless, useless agency. It's being done on purpose. And if anyone really gave a shit, if the Republicans really gave a shit, if Anthony Desposito was so pro-cop, or any of them were pro-cop, they would have been pushing for these city council candidates like we were. They would have been pushing for Alvin Bragg to be out of office like we were. They would have been pushing for Curtis Leawood to be the mayor instead of pushing for more of the same with Andrew Cuomo. So that's what it is.
Yeah. Great points, John. Great points. I think the bottom line is, and something I will do in my community, the minute that things start, you know, I draw the line between, human policing and robots. I don't want robots. If I call 911, I don't want the robots responding. I want a human reporting. Okay. And I think that we all have to, you know, in your own community, even if you're not in New York City, because again, New York City is the test bed in America. What happens here happens in your town tomorrow. So we all have to stand up for our communities and say, we don't want this here. We want humans. And I think, me personally, if I go to a restaurant and it's just robots working in there, then I'm sorry, I'm out of here. I'm not going there because I want humans. I want to sit down at a restaurant and be served by humans. I want to go to a bar and be served by humans. I don't want to deal with the robots. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe there's a place for some of it in society, but I don't want to replace human interaction and have be living in an AI dystopian. And I think we all have to stand up for, you know, our individual communities and make sure that this agenda doesn't come knocking on our doorsteps tomorrow.
Yeah, big question here. So one of the what are the chiefs at one police plaza going to do when we turn to all robots and no one's there to lie to them and tell them they're so handsome and good looking and grab them their coffees and drive them around? They're gonna have
You
to
working out, Chief? You look so muscular.
That's gonna be programmed in. Yeah.
Well, they have the sex robots now. So
Yeah.
It's true.
Madry will take 10 of those. Yeah.
yeah.
How did you get
Zone
such a
harem.
sexy triple neck? How did you do that with that neck? Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of time. I guess some of those robots will have ball gags walking around. I don't know what they're gonna do. There goes female drivers, huh? Well, listen, we're laughing, but we are headed towards this future. I agree. I want that human element also. I don't even like it. I guess, it's part of it. We have to get used to it. Just going to like a McDonald's, which I don't go often, but in the few times a year I do go, I hate having to go to the computer and picking out what you want and then, and remove some, and then actually getting it. I miss that human element of an actual person. It's life has changed. I mean, we have to, but it's going to get even further. I mean, could you imagine a domestic dispute and two robots show up? I mean, how many times in your lifetimes, right? John, Marlon, me, same thing. We've married people, we divorced them. I mean, when you're a cop, you're everything, right? You're a referee. You're it's combat sport. You marry people, you divorce them. You're a psychologist. You're a friend. You're everything. Robots can't do all that. It's black and white with a robot. A robot's gonna go walk around and hug people. They don't care, right? I guess they don't have to worry about that whole human interaction, right? It doesn't matter because they don't treat. And I say they, city council, legislature, they don't look at cops as human. They don't treat them like they're humans. But guess what? They are humans. Fox put robot racist. Yeah, I guess they won't have to worry about racism. Are they going to put like some black robots? Like, what are they going to do? But this is coming. I'm telling you, it's just a matter of time. Hopefully, they put some gay robots. That's very important. So we have part of the DEI movement. Very important.
You gotta have diversity, bro. You gotta have. Listen, they invent robots that clean the house. I'm getting one. I'm gonna make it look just like my wife. And I'm gonna boss her around. Like, go in the garage.
John, it'll be the first time in your life that you'll be right. You can actually program the robot to say you were right.
I'm gonna take it out to dinner and be like, "Don't talk to me." All right.
If that's the case, I'm marrying one of those robots.
Yeah.
Oh, that's coming.
Yeah. That, unfortunately, yeah.
Do you take Robot 6 to be your wife? There we go. This article is awesome.
So yeah. So you guys read this article. I know, Eric, you were posting about this yesterday. What was your favorite part of the New York Times article? As Mondani tries to woo the NYPD, he is met with skepticism and hope.
Oh my God. I gotta pull it up because man, this thing was too good. Hold on one second. This thing was awesome. I want to thank Lou Turco for his input here. This was phenomenal. Let me find this here.
Yeah. So it says, the article says Zohran Mondani takes office on January 1st with ambitious plans to rethink policing. Again, I think, everyone like continuously beats me up online because I'm saying that Zohran Mondani is no different than Eric Adams or Andrew Cuomo. Like, this whole rethinking of policing has been happening since 2013. Like, I don't know what everybody's talking about. Like, he doesn't have these ambitious plans. These have been the plans. He's just the new guy pushing it. That's all it is. And some officers are angry about his past criticism with them over could be whatever. I don't know what that says. Without them over could be a key to a successful team. So a successful term, excuse me. Sorry, that thing's blocking it. But did you get it? Did you get the quote?
Oh, this is my favorite part. I know you and Marlon, your favorite is Scott Monroe. And that's the runner-up for me. But my favorite was Lou Turco. Lou Turco says, to me, he has a clean slate. Oh, yeah? Okay. Said Louis Turco, head of the Lieutenants Union. I'm willing to work with him. Willing to sit down with him about what I think is the best course of action for the NYPD. Wow. What are your thoughts when you hear that? Immediately, I think If there's another scamdemic, they're on board. No problem. Another scamdemic, our members are on board. CCRB is going to have final say. Yeah, no problem. On board. We're good to go. Just give me 4 more years in the union.
Yeah, pretty much. They're all ready to go, and again, we hinted at the Scott Monroe quote on there, and to me that's definitely my favorite on here. So Scott Monroe, if you guys don't know, you New York viewers, Scott Monroe is the president of the Detectives Endowment Association. Now, NYPD has multiple unions. Unfortunately, it's divide and conquer, and Scott is in charge of the DEA, which is the Detectives Union. So he says he was unsure of what kind of relationship he would have with Mayor Mandani. Detective Monroe said he was used to being able to call Adams anytime I want. Okay, well, yeah, what is he telling us? That he's either ineffectual or he never brings up, he doesn't care about you. Okay, because if you can pick up the phone at any time and call Eric Adams, well, certainly in my case, and there's another detective I know of who's currently fired. I think he was in the bomb squad. But did you pick up the phone and call Eric Adams about us? Did you pick up the phone and call him about the other cops who were forced to leave? Wait, you could pick up the phone at any time and call him, and what does that produce? What do you guys talk about? I mean, do you talk about the menu at Rouse? Is that what he picks up the phone for? This comment is just is he so unaware of the implications of saying that? I saw that and I was like, this guy, man. Yeah.
Nah, yeah, listen. So I think Turcos go along to get along. So I mean, I don't expect any different statement from him at all. That is exact. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, and to be fair, if you're a union president, you should, regardless of who the mayor is, you should be willing to work with them. But you shouldn't just pull your pants down and wait in bed, handcuffed with pink fuzzy cuffs and in your mouth, and wait and bent over for the mayor. Whatever you need, sir, I'm with you. And that's really what these unions are like. You know what I mean? They literally, because again, I put out a quote the other day. I said something about because I was listening to this guy who worked for Apple, and he was saying, a white guy, and he's saying how he was pushing all of these DEI initiatives and how it was almost impossible to hire a white male in the company. And he's like, and here I am, I'm making all this money. And it was really convenient for me to not watch what's happening. He's like, but I'm thinking, well, my son are going to be white men. What kind of future am I building for them? And so I said that, I said, wow, it's reminiscent of white NYPD executives who pushed the DEI initiative. And the way they justified is because they took their sons and they threw their sons undeservingly into investigative track assignments, right? I think they all did it. I think Shea did it. I think Kemper did it. I think the other chief of detectives did it. I'm sorry, your kid has a year and a half on the job. He doesn't belong in a detective squad. He doesn't belong in warrants. He doesn't belong in an investigative assignment. I don't care. I don't care if your son is the best cop that ever graced the New York City Police Department. They have to cut their teeth, earn their bones, and understand the job first. And you can't tell me that a year and a half rookie that was taken care of in his rookie days understands what the hell's happening in the police department. You just can't. I don't care who that dad is. I don't care who they know. They have to learn their way. So, and I think that's how they justified, well, I took care of my son. I got my son hooked up and I got all this money. So they justify really selling out, breaking the law, one, because it's against equal opportunity law, and two, really selling out their own children and their own grandchildren's future. That's really what they did, because basically all the shit that Shea was pushing, he was basically ensuring that his son would never be in his position, could never rise from a poor immigrant kid to become the police commissioner of the largest department in the world, And so I put that out, but really when I thought further about it, I really think it's the same thing with the unions. It's the same exact thing with the unions. It's such self-interest. And they look at it, well, I'm taking care of my kids. Yeah, but you're not taking care of your members, and you're not taking care of your union, and you're certainly not taking care of your profession or the department. So, I mean, I think it's the same thing. They're just basically go along to get along. And Scott Monroe's quote is brilliant. It shows exactly what we've been saying for years that the unions care about, and they care about their own self-interest. Scott Monroe, president of the Detective Endowment Association, said he was unsure what kind of relationship he would have with Mayor Mondani. Detective Monroe said he was used to being able to call Mr. Adams anytime I want. So more detectives have retired, vested under Eric Adams than any other mayor in New York City history. More cops have vested or resigned under Eric Adams than any other mayor in New York City history. More cops have retired fully under Eric Adams than any other mayor in New York City history. There have been more corruption scandals under Eric Adams than any other mayor in New York City. We've had more police commissioners under Eric Adams than any other mayor in New York City. And I think morale has been at its lowest point the entire Adams administration. And here you have Monroe, and what he was concerned about is not the well-being of his officers, not the well-being of his members, not the fact that he has about 3,000, probably more at this point, probably close to 4,000 less detectives than he had in 2001, even though their responsibility and caseload has greatly increased since that time. So, and the scrutiny that they fall under is also greatly increased at that time. So he has 4,000 less of them, but he doesn't care about any of that, because if he needed something personally from Eric Adams, he couldn't get Marlon Bethel back to work. He couldn't get the guy that was having that CCRB was coming after. He couldn't get that off. But if I needed something from Eric Adams, I just picked up the phone and he took care of it. That's the mentality of the union. This is the mentality of all of the unions. And like we've been saying, they don't work for their members. They work for themselves. And this is the clearest example of it. Oh, he did it. He did it.
Did it. Yeah.
Never a flawless victory.
Well, I got to
everybody
throw
says
one in
Marlon's
there.
so smart. The guy can't even put his
I got to throw one in there, I got to stay on brand here. Okay. Yeah, I give the audience what they're expecting.
Talk shit about me and Eric, right? You don't see it. It's very rare that we do that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember we had that conversation with Jack, and Jack basically said me and you are stupid and Marlon's smart. Jack, if you listen to this, I know you are. You got your comment here.
Yeah, Jack, that's for you, bro.
Yeah. Sit on that, Jack.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, I think it's even worse than that. I think it's a caste system. They brought the caste system that we're seeing with the elites into the NYPD, right? So the caste system is it comes from ancient India, and it's kind of been part of Indian society since the ancient times, right? It's where it's a rigid social stratification where your status is determined by at birth and hereditary group. And that means like the elites pass on, you're born an elite with money, and the conditions in society allow you to pass it on to your kids and their kids, and you walk in the door and already you're already a second grader, in the NYPD. And they've actually brought that down into the NYPD. And you see that in all of society right now in the West. Okay, you got people like Bill Aikman. We've talked about him many times on the show and his influence in the last election. Well, did you know Bill Aikman, all the wealth he has, he didn't, I mean, how much effort did he put into it when his dad was already a prominent, multimillionaire himself, Again, Trump too. Look, Trump made a lot of money, but his dad was already a millionaire, and now his kids are going to be, generations are going to be like wealthy just by being born, and so, that kind of system is now part of the NYPD, where you're a union boss and your kids are walking in the door, second grader, and that kid he's gonna rise to the ranks, and his kid is gonna walk in the door with already second grader, and they're gonna pass it on and on and on. And think how hard it is. Think how the rules don't apply to them. Okay, the rules apply to you, But if something happens to their kids, no, they're already in that nepo baby protected class of the NYPD. So it's really sad that we're seeing how much how much the NYPD is a microcosm of the larger problems in Western society as it pertains to leaderism right now.
I'd like to thank in this article retired. His name is Derby St. Fort, a retired captain. I want to thank him. He obviously watches the Finest Unfiltered. He said in this article, "You're not going to find a foot cop who says I'm leaving because of this mayor." Talking about Mondani. Said Derby St. Fort, a captain who retired in August. I don't buy that. The foot cop is leaving because of how he's treated internally within the job. Gee, John, where'd you hear that? Did you hear that on the Finest Unfiltered? He's more worried about how his direct supervisor treats him. Yeah, listen, you're spot on, brother. Thank you so much for watching the network. We appreciate it. It's the internal pressures of the NYPD that leave cops to mass exits and resignations and retirement. We've been saying that a long time. Also, that leads to the mental health problem, the NYPD. It's the internal pressures, not the external pressures. They don't give a shit who the mayor is. They don't care who's in city council. They don't care if you strip away at them with every legislation. What they care about is, do they get support from the NYPD, from their leadership within, and is morale strong? That's the most important thing. So for that, retired Captain Derby St. Fort, you're absolutely right. And thank you for watching the network, brother. We appreciate it.
RH has the comment of the day. Everybody's laughing at him. He said that I'm obsessed with gay sex. But yeah, no, that was definitely right. Like that, I think that's like, it's literally, it's a toned down version of the quote that I wrote in that article where I said they don't care who's in City Hall, they care who's in One Police Plaza. You know, that's why they leave. They don't leave because of who's in City Hall. They leave because of who's in One Police Plaza. But yeah, that article is definitely very eye-opening. Definitely very, very eye-opening. So this comes out too. This comes out. Black NYPD aviation commander sidelined pilot because he was old and white, because he was too pale, too stale, and too male. So we had Sal Greco had Deputy Chief Winston Faison on the Finest Unfiltered last week. Check that show out. It was a good show. And he defended all the allegations that came out about him in the Post, all the allegations in the lawsuits that came out about him. Eric Sanders, his attorney, was with him on that show. Attorney John Scola is representing another client who is actually suing Chief Faison, and I believe he's going to be seeking litigation to get Eric Sanders removed as Winston Faison's attorney, because the individual that filed a lawsuit against the NYPD and Winston Faison actually consulted with Eric Sanders prior to that. So there's a lot of fighting going on between that. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know like the whole thing, but it appears that there is a conflict there. It appears that there could be a conflict there, that the courts could rule. I don't know how accurate I am or not on that. So, but after that interview, this article comes out. So another lawsuit drops, and this is like goes directly against something that Winston said on the podcast. He said that he never transferred anybody or reassigned anyone or transferred someone out of their duties or out of the unit as the CO when he became the CO. But what this officer is claiming is in direct opposition to that. So I'd put this out on, I always put things out on X, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and Facebook. I rarely ever look at my Facebook comments or my LinkedIn comments because I just don't get a lot of traction in there. It gets a lot of views, but for whatever reason, I think people are like scared of those two platforms, and they're not as they just don't comment as much on them for whatever reason. So I don't really go back and notice the comments, but someone sent me this comment, and I was like, I thought that this was a real interesting comment. And this was from LinkedIn. This is from John Shell. So now I had posted the link to that article, and I just basically said what the article said and not some in substance, you know? And so Shell says, do you know what's really sad? I was told to go to the 138 mark of the interview of Chief Faison and was disappointed when I heard him say. He basically accused me of making numerous false allegations so the chief would not be selected to be the commander of Brooklyn North. He was told he was going to be selected. Let me make one clear statement here. His name was never mentioned one time for that post, not once. But now I'm an easy target for obvious reasons. Like I said, sad but not shocked. So that came out on my LinkedIn. So now you have cops going against Faison and saying that what he was saying wasn't accurate. And now you even actually have former chief of department John Shell also saying that what Faison was saying was not accurate, that he was never being considered for chief of Brooklyn North. What's true? I don't know. Like we always say, there's three sides to the story. There's your side, there's the other person's side, and then there's actually what happened. You know, so like it is what it is. So we don't know, but it makes a good fodder. I'll tell you that. You know.
At this point, I mean, we have no idea what's true. That's what I've been saying for the longest time. I thought Faison did a great job. I thought he did a great job on Sal's show. I thought that he articulated how it was really like some of the charges that were against him was a complete overreach. It was like too many charges. And when he laid out his resume, it was quite impressive because we thought he was a DEI hire. And in fact, he actually had the qualifications as an actual pilot and instructor himself. But as far as this goes, this is now, internal issues. I don't know what's true or not. I don't take anything into stock what comes out of John Shell at all. I mean, here's a guy who cheated on his taxes and had a questionable shooting, and he talks like a maniac on social media. When he has a couple in him or not. So I don't take anything he says into stock. But this is quite interesting how this is going to play out. But it does coincide what we've been saying for 3 years on this podcast: old male, pale, and stale. If you're a white alpha male within the NYPD, you will face some type of discrimination. So this is quite interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know where Marlon went. I think he just left. I think he's probably messing with his mic.
You know what it is? Marlon had so much information in his head. I just think he goes on information overload. And the last thing he's worried about is a mic.
So, but yeah, like I said, I respected Faison for going on the podcast and airing it out. I do. But like I said, there's a lot of issues that happened in that aviation unit that there needs to be answers for. And he didn't really speak on those. You know what I mean? He didn't speak on those lawsuits. I get that there was litigation, so he can't really speak on it. But I think a lot of what's coming out, there are a lot of legs to. And 100%. I mean, even Pat Gordon said he was trying to diversify the aviation unit. What was he saying? What does that mean? He was trying to eliminate the white males out of the aviation unit. That's what that means. I have no problem with people supporting their faith. I have no problem with Jews that stand up for their faith. I have no problem with Muslims that stand up for their faith. I have no problem with black officers that stand up for other black officers. I have no problem with that at all. My problem really stems from white men not standing up for themselves and for their children. Like, I understand that, like, you're gonna stand up for yourself. But that comment from Pat Gordon, that said a lot there. Like, oh, I'm trying to diversify the unit. What does that mean exactly? Are you trying to make the unit better? Are you trying to make the unit more competent? Or are you just trying to change the look of how people look in there? And under the Eric Adams administration, we showed you numerous proof time and time again out of his own mouth where he was saying the NYPD has an image problem. You don't see the youth. You don't see the diversity. He didn't care about competence. He didn't care about integrity. He cared about skin color. And it's illegal in this country. It doesn't matter that you have a deputy commissioner of equity and inclusion in the NYPD. It doesn't matter that the world shifted. Equal opportunity law still stands in America. It's completely illegal what happened in the New York City Police Department the last 4 years. And I think there are a lot of legs that happen. I think there are a lot of things that happened in that aviation unit that need answering to. But that aviation unit is not just, it wasn't just Faison. It wasn't just Faison, in my opinion, that's pushing diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, it was the entire job. And the things that Winston Faison did as a black man, there were plenty of white chiefs that did exactly what he did. And we're promoting people and transferring people and giving preferential treatment to people based upon their skin color. And it was an anti-white agenda inside of the New York City Police Department. And there's been there. So, when anytime any of these attorneys starts to throw out there and say, well, the police department's against black officers and Hispanic officers, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, because if you would have told me in 1980, I'll say, okay. If you would say bring up the unions currently, I'll say, okay. If you're gonna talk about today, right now, maybe even the early 2000s, I might agree with you. You're gonna talk about today. There is a documented, clear evidence trail. That not only documented clear evidence trail, it's actually written into the mission statement of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Unit inside of the NYPD that it is a complete anti-white male agenda. I mean, so, and there are a lot of white males pushing that as well. So I think those lawsuits that are coming out of aviation have a lot of merit and have a lot of legs. Unfortunately, I think the courts have that same exact agenda. And that's why you don't see a lot of attorneys jumping on to take these cases, because there is a bias and disdain for white males in New York.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I know you often say that the media is captured and seized, but the court system is also captured and seized also. And in order for DEI to play out, the court system has to be weaved into this, and they have to be bought out. They have to be under siege for this actually to play out, because there would be discrimination upon discrimination lawsuit. Now, I have no problem. If you say you want to diversify a unit, the question is, how do you want to diversify it? Do you want to diversify with education? You want to diversify with characteristics? You want to diversify with experience? That makes sense. But when Pat Gordon and people in different tribes and different organizations say they want to diversify, they're talking about exactly that. We're talking about color and creed. And that is where the problem comes in. Because in order to diversify in that manner, that means you have to eradicate and discriminate against another group. That's what they're saying. And that's I don't even know if they realize it. But in order to diversify in that manner, you have to discriminate against a group in order to diversify. Because in order to diversify by looks and appearance, you would have to discriminate against qualified people that do not fit that appearance. So that's where the problem comes into this. But we see it. It's on the national level. It's not just in New York City. It's a national level where it's openly discrimination. The 30 by 30 movement is outright public and open discrimination. We're saying by 2030, we'd have to have 30% females. And in order to have 30% females, that means that we have to discriminate against qualified males. And ultimately, I agree with you. The problem is when it comes to white males, the old pale male stales of the NYPD, they did not speak up to protect the rank and file white alpha male and female. Instead, they're complicit because it's about self-promotion and paving the way for their offspring. So instead, they remain quiet and they become chief of department. And they get jobs just as this because it fits them. Or if you're former Commissioner Dermot Shea, you pave the way for your offspring so that your offspring can become a detective within 18 months of being on the job. So that's why they're complicit. So that's why for the longest time I've been asking for an older white chief to stand up and put their neck out and stick up for the rank and file. But what I hear is, well, it's going to be career suicide. Well, someone has to jump on a grenade. I talked about this in a past episode, how, Marines, I don't know if I could ever do it, but they've jumped on grenades for other Marines. And you learn about that when you're in the Marine Corps, and you learn about the brotherhood and how they've given their lives for other Marines. Now, I'm not asking them to jump on a grenade, but figuratively speaking, we do need some white chief to jump on a grenade for everyone so this discrimination stops. Is there merit to this? Absolutely, because it's happening on all levels, and the majority, not just in the NYPD, but on a national level. So I'm sure it's even happening in aviation.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. I had to jump outside. The wind has been like insane around here the last 2 days. So I had to...
Marlon, we were telling him that you went on information overload. You had to clean it up.
I had to reboot.
You got to reboot. Marlon's an AI computer.
Yeah. No. The wind is wreaking havoc on the area around here. But I saw that interview with Chief Faison, and I don't know what to think of it, because I agree. Some of the allegations against him sound legit, even after hearing him. He impressed me that he was actually a pilot. So he in terms of that aspect, he knew he didn't get there just by DEI. But he also said some things to me that raised a red flag, and that about how only supervisors should deal with the FAA, and to me, when I heard that, I thought he was bringing that same that same kind of precinct mentality to a unit that's a unit that works with a lot of outside NYPD agencies, and that you can't necessarily apply the NYPD I'm a supervisor mentality to that unit. And I've talked to people in aviation, and they have, again, there's a lot of guys who have experience in there, who are experienced pilots who've been there for years, okay? And it's not like a precinct where most of the guys in the precincts are new. We have guys in aviation who've been there like 15 years. So when I saw that, to me, that was a red flag. And I do believe that the allegations have merit, and you simply have to look at the people that Faison brought with him, and who he put in positions. He brought with him, and he put them in certain positions over there. And he also gave them a lot of overtime, and a lot of overtime ahead of guys who are already there. So again, I there's a lot of back and forth going on between the lawyers representing, and I don't know what to think of that right now. But I do believe there is some merit to what to those allegations. And again, also something to remember, Chief Faison he's also part of that Madry circle, okay? So even though his contact with them was kind of diminished as as Eric Adams got into office, I do believe, like, in a lot of ways, these guys thought the same, and kind of like they kind of had a certain preference, I'll say, for like personnel, and so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, dude. I just think, I thought it was a great podcast. I think it's a lot of drama, it's a lot of soap opera, but I definitely think there are a lot of issues legally, and I think there are a lot of issues with the integrity of the Internal Affairs Bureau and the oversight and side of the New York City Police Department currently. So a lot of people keep saying on here that we take credit for Zohran Mamdani's victory. We absolutely did not platform Zohran Mamdani. He had a large platform way before he ever came on the podcast. He just wasn't a national figure. Like, people didn't know him nationally. We didn't give him that national attention. Fox News, Newsmax, everyone else gave him that national attention. But like, what we were continuously saying is that everything that you're hearing, all of this is fear-mongering propaganda. All of this stuff around Zohran Mamdani is just politics. It's not, he's no different than Eric Adams. He's no different than Andrew Cuomo. He's no different than Bill de Blasio. He is a traditional Democrat. And yes, the Democrats now, are they DSA aligned Democrats? They are. It's a far left agenda. By you switching over and being unprincipled and going for a guy like Andrew Cuomo, you're moving the Overton window, and now you have pushed what the idea of being acceptable in society politically is, by saying, oh, it's okay that he released 43 cop killers. It's okay that he put in bail reform. It's okay that he repealed 58. It's okay that he did all of these things because he's better than the other guy, even though I can't tell you one policy that's different from the other guy. And you know what else? Trump told me to vote for him too. Trump said it was good. And the mainstream media told me, and all these the billionaire controlled media told me. So that's why you did it. And it's basically was an unprincipled stance. And Curtis Lee was 7%, was not organic by any stretch of the imagination. That was over $100 million spent to ensure that Curtis Lee would be destroyed. and to push fear and propaganda to get you to vote for a far left radical who has the same exact policies as a Zohran Mamdani. And ultimately, what we said, it was a 3-card Mamdani. You were always getting Mamdani. But look, the plan failed right on its face, and Mamdani becomes the mayor in New York City, right? You crush Curtis Sliwa. You prop up what a Republican is now. Andrew Cuomo is now a Republican as far as it's concerned in New York, which means as far as it's concerned nationally, it's acceptable now to vote for a Democrat. Andrew Cuomo's MAGA now. Eric Adams is MAGA now. And look, all the stuff around Zohran Mamdani. Look, he is President Trump who told you to vote for a far left progressive Democrat, Andrew Cuomo. Listen to what he's saying about Zohran Mamdani now.
The mayor of New York, I will say, would like to meet with us and we'll work something out. But he would like to come to Washington and meet, and we'll work something out. We want to see everything work out well for New York. The mayor of...
There it is. I mean, so there you go. Any different from Eric Adams? Any different from what would have happened if Andrew Cuomo was elected?
Yeah. That didn't take long, like we said during the election, a lot of this is just WWE, and again, the people that the plans that Mamdani has in place also benefit people like Trump and their business interests. So I now that the John, like John said a couple episodes ago, now that the Royal Rumble is over, everyone is in the back, backstage. They're drinking and partying it up, and and making plans for the next next show.
I just want to say that to all the people that think that we promoted and gave Zohran Mamdani a platform, if we did, man, we did a terrible job, because the whole time we were rooting for Curtis Sliwa. If they think we promoted him, we did a terrible job. I mean, if we were a part of his campaign, I would say we were an epic failure. Downright failure, brother.
100%.
Right? We failed the mission.
Yeah, 100%. So this comes out to former Hamtramck police chief. So he was the head of the Hamtramck Detroit town in Detroit. He was the chief of. He was basically the top cop there. Oh man, I just drew a blank on his name. What was his name? His name is, hold on, give me 1 second. So Fox 2 Detroit, former NYPD executive Jamil Al-Taheri. So he resigns as a result of city council in Hamtramck asking for him to be fired. They voted for him to be fired. He ultimately, his attorney sues, pushes back, and he ultimately gets like a 5 or 6 month settlement where he gets a severance pay. But it was resulting in a lot of allegations that had came out about him, a lot of misconduct allegations, misuse of authority, abuse of authority. I think there was like drunk driving in there and a lot of other stuff. And so he was the head of diversity, equity, inclusion in the NYPD, leaves, goes to Detroit, not to Detroit, but to Hamtramck, excuse me. And he becomes a top cop there. And then ultimately all these allegations come out and he's gone. He's saying that he's being offered a job by Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's very interesting. He has some. He, by the way, has some very interesting connections, and I think that. I kind of wonder if he's another Democrat agent, and I also, the reason why I'm saying that is because, Abbasi's name was already, his name is already up for a position in Mamdani's administration, and he's very connected to the Democrat Party and via that AG over there in New Jersey, who himself is like a ideologue. So I when I see him now being up for the role, I have to wonder whether he's another guy tied into the Democrat Party, because he is tied into some developers. So maybe later on another show when I'll get into that part we'll see where if he does get picked for the administration, what role he has. And I'd be curious to see if he actually gets picked for the Department of Buildings, by the way, because that would be very, very interesting with those connections to the real estate. But the other thing I was gonna say is that that you have to wonder now, is it the brown guy's turn right now? You know, is the NYPD gonna become like a splintered department of self-interest and ethnic, ethnic self-interest, depending on who's the PC. If the PC's Asian, all the Asian guys are up for roles, are going to be in the upper echelon. If the PC's black, all the black guys are up in the upper echelon. I have to wonder if that's the agenda going forward,
He came into Hamtramck, Michigan, which is a small town. It's about 28,000 people. He's supposed to be this big NYPD guy who's revolutionary with the DEI movement, and he was hit with allegations early on in his tenure there. So, but the allegations that he has against him are very serious allegations. They're not civilian complaint allegations. There's some serious allegations of misconduct and abuse of power, that he utilized his position there to abuse his authority with the public. Supposedly, one of the allegations against him is he gave a civilian a firearm. This is driving intoxicated, just running red lights. Some serious allegations there. But he is of Yemeni American descent, also part of the DEI movement. So it wouldn't make sense for Mamdani to put him, to bring him back. I wouldn't be surprised. I still believe that Jessica Tisch will remain on as police commissioner for a short time in her tenure, but I do believe that he'll bring
hundreds of thousands of dollars
in some other form. Maybe eventually be police commissioner. I still think Jessica Tisch will transition the police department from Mamdani, but I think maybe he'll bring Altieri in some other facet. But Joe Ramirez says, I don't know Altieri, he's unhinged. I don't know him either. I've heard good things, I've heard bad things, but I know he is part of this DEI movement, and he is a Yemeni American descent. So I believe that he has a lot of pull based on what I read in the observations. He has a lot of pull and a lot of insight with the Muslim community. So it would make sense for Mamdani. John's turn. You're muted. You're up.
Sorry, I muted myself because I'm having problems with these videos.
All good.
Marlon posted them, but they're together, so I can't separate them. So sorry for the presentation on the screen, but for those of you that are listening, these are some of the news reports about Altieri at his time at Hamtramck.
To get to the bottom of a wide array of accusations against Chief Jamil Al-Tahari.
Click on the video, John, and it should expand.
Comes after a memo from a city employee began circulating, alleging the chief acted inappropriately on several occasions and may have even broken the law.
7 News Detroit's Randy Wimbley looking into those findings, listening to people about steps the city must take.
That investigation combed through more than 500,000 documents and included about 40 witness interviews. The investigation substantiated a number of allegations against the Hamtramck police chief and another Hamtramck cop. Driving a city vehicle after drinking alcohol, pressuring officers to help in a custody dispute, and handing a loaded gun to a civilian volunteer and instructing them to put it to someone's head. Those are just a few of the allegations against Hamtramck Police Chief Jamil Al-Tahiri that Miller Johnson, a law firm the city hired to conduct an investigation, found to be true.
I would get fired if I worked like that at my job and did all these side deals and took people's safety, lightly. I wouldn't have a job.
Residents like Tracy Pilcher and Mark Armand are stunned. What do you want your mayor and your council to do in light of these findings?
Do what's right for the city. If somebody did all those things they're accused of, then they shouldn't be in charge of anybody.
The report was posted on the city's website and taken down soon after, but not before 7 News Detroit downloaded the damning document commissioned by city leaders to investigate allegations against Chief Al-Tahiri, Officer David Adamczyk, and City Manager Max Garbarino, All three are on administrative leave.
Max was just doing his job. He was a whistleblower, and he came out and did his job, and he shouldn't have been suspended.
The report found Adamczyk, among other things, committed overtime abuse and violated policies regarding stolen property. As for Garbarino, the investigation largely did not substantiate the initial allegations against him, but it did say he exercised poor judgment in his role as city manager, like delaying addressing allegations of misconduct by Chief Al-Tahiri and Adamczyk. But Garbarino tells me by phone he would have taken action sooner, but claims Mayor Amir Ghalib reportedly told him he had no authority to do so. We reached out to the mayor and every member of city council for comment. No takers. We also contacted Hamtramck's police chief and the attorney for Officer Adamczyk, but we have not yet heard back. The investigation's findings are set to be discussed at Tuesday's city council meeting. Stay tuned.
So, and here's the other video.
Well, back in August, it was reported that Chief Jamil Al-Tahiri was terminated by city council, but after he lawyered up, the city has decided to redesignate his departure as resigned, as well as offer a severance package. But why? Tonight, we're getting answers.
And so as opposed to terminating him, we've come up with a resolution where he resigns as the acting police chief, and they gave him 5 months of severance pay.
Attorney Amir Macklid, who is representing former Hamtramck Police Chief Jamil Al-Tahiri, is talking about the city's decision to pay Al-Tahiri and designate his departure as a resignation. Macklid believes Al-Tahiri was retaliated against for being a whistleblower.
The chief had been reporting wrongdoing from other police officers and had been giving advice to the mayor and to the city attorney about some of the misdeeds of people within the police department. And so instead of being protected as a whistleblower, he was terminated.
Macklid also believes former city manager Max Garbarino prompted this one-sided investigation into his client.
Initially, this chaos was created a lot with the former city manager, right, Max Garbarino. And then there was an investigation done by Miller Johnson, which is a local law firm that had done really a one-sided investigation without any input from the chief himself, in terms of what was being alleged in that investigation.
Some of the things alleged in that investigation was that Al-Tahiri drove while intoxicated using city vehicles, and detailed one incident where Al-Tahiri allegedly drove intoxicated from a strip club while other officers were in that vehicle. But again, Macklid insists Al-Tahiri was never allowed to address or respond to those accusations.
And really, we found that to be retaliatory in nature.
And we did reach out to former city manager Max Garbarino. His attorney responded with this statement. It reads in part, quote, "The claim that Mr. Garbarino created this situation is ridiculous. This matter began because of Chief Al-Tahiri's own serious and disturbing conduct and because Mr. Garbarino was required to report that conduct under law. This is what set this in motion and nothing else," end quote. That said, again, moving forward, Macklid says this case is closed.
And he'll go his separate ways from the city. He gets his severance, and he's able to move on with dignity.
In Hamtramck.
So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I'm want that guy as anywhere in my administration. But hey, I guess that Zohran Mamdani is taking his lessons from Eric Adams and Bill de Blasio, and he's gonna let's see. It looks like it's just gonna be more of the same. It's just a different Crumbs crew coming in, and that's what it looks like. And I just looked at Patterson, Issa Abbasi. I was like, why did he go to Patterson? It's like so weird. And I was thinking the same thing with Al-Tahiri. Like, why would he go to Hamtramck, Michigan? Like, why would you go there? Oh, Muslim mayor. You go to Patterson, Muslim mayor. Oh, they just redirected Little Palestine, Palestine Way with the Palestine flag on street signs. And so now it looks like, there's some type of connection there. There's some type of like Muslim connection there where they're like, all right, we're bringing all our own people in. It's our time now. Same thing that all the executives in the NYPD were doing under Eric Adams, where they were saying it's our time now on the bottom of their emails. They were talking about the color of their skin. It's our time. Same thing that, you're going to see. It looks like it's going to be more of the same, bringing more unscrupulous, low integrity characters. And it honestly, we were saying last podcast that it looks like his administration might be more professional. But you know what? If you're going to bring in people like this, I think 100% that gets debunked right off the bat, and it's just going to be more of the same underqualified, low integrity individuals coming in that are just willing to continue to further this anti-police agenda. And honestly, I just got one more point with anyone that worked in diversity, equity, inclusion, and pushed these policies should have no business in any business or any, especially around law enforcement, because they broke the law and they're continuing to break the law because, again, like I said, these policies are illegal and they're immoral and they're racist.
Yeah. So it's out with Chocolate City, out with chocolate for the 1PP, out with arroz con pollo, and in with the hummus, guys. The menu's changing at 1PP now. Okay. So you better tell your guys to start converting there, Joe and Patrick. But listen, I think that these guys are both part of the Democrat agenda, and it's quite clear that both Patterson and Hamtramck are like they're trying to do something over there, and I think this is all part of the Democratic push, as we said before. All right. It's not that they care about those communities. They don't care about you. Okay. Right. There's a deliberate push going on to appeal and to virtue signal to the South Asian community. Right. And we talked about it before, how a lot of it goes back to importing H-1B visa workers to be the new cheap labor serf class. Okay. Right. And this, I believe this is all part of that agenda too. Okay. And it's all tied into corporations, because when Abbasi went to Patterson, you can see the technology he brought there and the connections to Wall Street there as well. And again, he brought the body cameras and the AI connected body cameras over there so you can bet. You see how the connections are to going back to New York City and where we're headed here. But I'm gonna say that Hamtramck itself is kind of a mess right now, and multiple agencies, both state and federal, are kind of looking at it, and they're looking at election fraud as well over there. But even with that, the allegations specifically against Altieri gives me the impression that he'll be walking into the NYPD if he comes back with the same hubris and arrogance that the Crumbs crew had, where they think, oh, the rules don't apply to me, okay? And I'm above it all. And that's, again, like John says, it's just a different version of the Crumbs crew, you know?
I mean, I think we were fair. We were given the benefit of the doubt that this administration would have more of a professional appearance than what we see before, because it's hard to believe that anything could be as scandalous as the Eric Adams administration. But with tribalism, with what we're seeing, now tribalism does bring a sense of pride, but with the tribalism that we see is about discriminating against others. And I would put my money on it. I don't know. I'm sure there's a relationship between Altieri and also Abbasi at Patterson and Hamtramck. I would put my money on it. But this tribalism now of bringing in Muslims to run the police department is no different from what we saw from Eric Adams. So it proves what we've been saying for the longest time. Eric Adams is Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo is Mamdani. It's all the same. Nothing's changed. It's the same horse. It's just a different color. Instead of now, black being at the upper echelon, it's going to be Muslims. And I have no problem if they're the most suitable, if they fit that bill. But if we're just bringing them in because it's now going to be diversified and top heavy with Muslim, because that's what Mamdani wants, well, then nothing's changed. We're going back to nepotism. We're going back to cronyism. We're going to continue this 3-level tier discipline in the NYPD, and ultimately nothing will change. Things are just progressively getting worse, and not because Eric Adams is leaving and Mamdani is moving in, is because the system is growing and growing, and it's getting worse and worse. And it doesn't matter if it was Eric Adams or Mamdani; it's exactly the same template.
Yeah. So, and then somebody that was at a borough stat that was being run, and Altahiri was there. They're saying that he got into it with Chief Morrell, who was Julie Morrell. She was the chief of Queens North Detectives at the time, because she warned about associating with no criminals. He lashed out at the borough stat, saying she was racist, etc. Had to be separated, and shortly after he got his promotion in his new spot, he went off because he got info from a crime from the community. From what he said, she shot it down because the squad didn't have it yet, and he just went off in front of everyone. It was wild. They had to end borough stat, and soon after, he was promoted and moved to the palace. Morrell moved also. It was the most insane thing I've ever seen in any meeting ever. So that's, a lot of people, every time I post anything about out there, I posted the original news article, and then I posted that Mondani had asked him to come in. And, I always get a lot of different things. He's a piece of garbage. He's a great guy. So a lot of people know him. I don't know the guy personally. I can't say anything personally about the guy. I just know what I hear. But I'll tell you right now, from what I hear, it gives me the appearance that if I was the mayor in New York City, he's one of the last people I'd reach out to say, hey, do you want to come in my administration? It's like saying, oh, do you think he'd make Banks? Do you think he'd make Phil Banks the euro? No, I don't. And am I saying that Al Tahiri is as notorious as the unindicted co-conspirator of Philip Banks? No, I'm not saying that either, but I'm just going to look for a clean slate. And what it looks like is we're just looking for skin color or creed or things like that. That's what we're looking at. And so I think that, it's a big problem. Another big problem, Eric Adams' administration on the way out, and we see that Mark Stewart, who retired from the NYPD in 2004 as a uniform member service and was brought back. And now Mark Stewart's well-liked by a lot of people that I know. Everyone says Mark's a great guy. I don't know Mark personally. This isn't a personal attack on him. I could care less about who he is, how he is, if he's a good guy, if he's a bad guy. It doesn't really matter to me. Just looking at it on the face, he retires from the New York City Police Department in 2004. He's brought back under the Adams administration. We played a couple of videos of him testifying where it didn't look like he was too into his job or actually knew what the hell was going on. So he comes back as the Deputy Commissioner of Community Affairs. He's retiring now, and he just receives a monster 3/4 pension. I don't understand how you're becoming disabled as a civilian in the New York City Police Department when you retired over 20 years ago as a uniform member of service. To me, it raises huge eyebrows as to what's happening over at this disability board. And we're also hearing that Chief Holmes, who's supposedly the Deputy Commissioner of Probation, even though she's still somehow assigned to the New York City Police Department, like a certain Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, right? So she actually is putting in for a 3/4 disability pension as well. So, I mean, are we going to see that under Mondani? I mean, if we're going to be bringing in people like that, then I would expect that, we're going to see stuff like that.
Yeah. It's the whole appearance of impropriety, considering what we just went through with this last administration. Again, if you're Mamdani coming in and you said you want to be different, and you said you openly criticized the Eric Adams administration and his NYPD, why would you want to imitate it? Okay, you don't want to bring in anybody who's had any sort of improprieties, ensnaring their name right now. Okay, and most certainly if you want to keep your voter base motivated and not have them get disillusioned, because again, you made some hefty promises that you're not going to be able to accomplish. And most certainly you're not, even if you manage to get Kathy Hochul to do all of the things she would need to do to get it done and jeopardize her reelection by doing it, that's still not going to happen until after her reelection. So how are you going to, if you're bringing guys who are circled, who have improprieties, you're already disillusioning your voter base. So, what was I going to say? There's been so much scandal around Eric Adams' administration. I don't think you want to imitate it. And also about what's going on with the disability pensions. We said a couple episodes ago that as Eric Adams leaves, he's going to empty the vault. Okay, it's a free for all that's happening, and this is just giving me another indication that before he leaves, everybody everybody who is down for the Crumbs crew is gonna get their all their desserts before the you know before the it's like that movie Hard Rain. It's an old movie from the 90s. The whole town was flooded, and it was time to go rob the bank because it's everyone's leaving town. Why not just empty the vault one time?
Well, Eric Adams often talks about the table of success, right? So they're all eating pretty damn good at the table of success. Leo Frappini, what's up, brother? Friend to the podcast, says this will be Juanita Holmes' second retirement, 3 quarters from probation. Unbelievable. Absolutely. She retired once before. I think she got a job at American Express, making about $400,000 a year, and came back to the NYPD. I have a lot of questions. Why?
I think we know.
But she left in good health, and Juanita Holmes happens to be an avid runner. She is, known. She maintains a high level of physical fitness. She's a runner. I don't know what her issue is now. She needs disability pension. Mark Stewart retired in 2004, 21 years ago, and now as a civilian who doesn't even know where his job location is, he has no idea where to report to because we heard him testify. He doesn't even know his job. He now needs a disability pension. And John Shell has to remember what ankle is hurting him. So at this point, I would like to know, what are the percentages of chiefs in the NYPD that get denied a disability pension? Because I worked with many cops and even sergeants and lieutenants who had some severe surgeries and fought tooth and nail and couldn't get disability pensions. So this is an outright public scam. This is just another slap in the face to the taxpayer and just drains the pension system. Absolutely insane, absolutely ridiculous. It's just a moment of opportunity. They're doing it because they can. And you're right, Marlon. They're out on the way to the door, and they're getting their last slice of cake.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and then this comes out, and this really pisses me off because we got that hearing on Wednesday about the reinstatement for terminated workers. So they're going to be voting on that rule down in DCAS. So that virtual hearing is happening, and I just hear so much hate about this whole process and people who were terminated for non-compliance with New York City's vaccine mandate. And all I hear is anti-vax, they're crazy, they're this, they're that, conspiracy theories. And all I'm sitting there and saying is, this is a huge issue of due process. A huge issue of due process that affects every worker, period. Whether you're a city worker or you're a private worker, it doesn't matter. This is a huge, huge problem on due process. So this article comes out, Staten Island NYPD detective accused of stockpiling ghost guns, busted again on weapons charge. So last year, this same detective was arrested for having ghost guns, right? What are ghost guns? They're 3D printed guns that don't have serial numbers. Now, I'm not a big fan of these cases at all because to me, if someone's just a gun enthusiast and they're playing around on a 3D printer trying to create things and they're not selling them and they're not seeking to do harm to anybody, I don't really give a shit. The guy's like basically playing around being an engineer. I don't know the story. I don't know this detective. I don't know that that's the case. But he's arrested for it. He's accused of a crime. In America, you're innocent until proven guilty. He's still a detective. He's still working. He's still receiving his health benefits. He's still doing all this stuff while the criminal trial ensues. And then he will wait for the hearing from the department trial. So while he's awaiting that, he gets arrested again a year later. And he's still waiting. Now you have Marlon sitting here who never was accused of a crime. He was never even accused of violating the NYPD's patrol guide. And he was terminated immediately. No department trial, no due process. Compensating and reinstating Marlon Bethel and city workers in his similar position has nothing to do with a vaccine. It has everything to do with civil rights, workers' rights, and allowing workers to have due process when they're accused of something. Marlon was accused of something. You know what Marlon was accused of? Marlon was accused of being a dirty disease spreader. Marlon was accused of being unvaccinated, and none of that is true because he, in fact, was vaccinated because he had the antibodies for it. That is what has been medical proven throughout medical history for the last 100 years. If you have antibodies in your system, you are protected. You don't need to take a vaccine against something. So Marlon, that was false. And saying that Marlon was a dirty disease spreader, unlike the rest of you, was actually false, because those who took it continued to get COVID and spread the disease just like everyone else. As a matter of fact, people who didn't take it were seen where they actually contracted COVID less, because the natural antibodies were actually a lot stronger than the ones given through the vaccine. And they lasted a whole lot longer. Medical history, not a problem. So everything that Marlon was accused of was not a crime, was not a violation of the patrol guide, and he was terminated from the New York City Police Department. Here you have a detective who was arrested twice over the course of a year. He's still in the New York City Police Department. He's still receiving money towards his pension. He's still accruing time. I mean, this is not, I'm not picking on this detective here, because I don't really know the case. I didn't really go through this. I don't really care too much, to be honest with you. If he was selling guns, then I have a problem with it. If he was seeking to do harm against someone, I have a problem with it. But we have officers accused of rape. We have officers accused of protecting drug dealers. We have officers accused of murder. Murder, not while they're at work. I'm talking murder, doing hits for people. And they received due process, and Marlon Bethel didn't. So if you don't support Marlon Bethel, you don't support yourself. And this just reminded me of that so much when I read this.
Yeah. There's a lot of aspects of this case that I'm very curious about, like the fact that this comes after they I guess they already suspended him for some sort of misconduct. But I'm like, to me, a lot of this sounds like they're just trying to get him for something, And I'm gonna say a lot of these arrests for ghost guns, are kind of, they're kind of shady. I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all. But I'm also gonna bring up the fact that in a couple of years, you're gonna be able to print an entire gun in your basement with a 3D printer. 3D printers now could print out various forms of plastics, and there are, I've done it myself. I have one myself right here. And the next step is you're going to be able to either mold the metal yourself, or be able to cut the sheath of metal and print out an entire firearm yourself. Give it 10 years, So what are they going to do then, But again, this entire issue is due process, and we already talked about how there's an attack on due process, and you guys need to, if you can't see how they're going after due process, then you're missing the big picture here, and you're just missing the fact that yesterday it was our due process, and tomorrow it's going to be yours. Okay. You're just hoping that it's going to skip you and you're going to make it to that retirement on top. But I'm telling you now, your turn is next.
I have no problem with these ghost guns. First of all, it's your your Second Amendment right, especially as a police officer who has the right to carry firearms anyway. But I get it. As far as a serial number goes, I do believe firearms should have a serial number. You should put a serial number to it. It should be identifiable in case it's ever stolen or anything like that. But I don't think that's a crime. And I don't think it's a big deal to have ghost guns. This is absolutely ridiculous. But to show the comparison, the analogy of due process, I mean, Marlon, your case is just astronomical. It's just completely insane. But that's why I thought it was laughable about that article from New York Times with Mamdani, where Lou Turkle said, yeah, no problem. We're on board. We'll work with you. Where numerous lieutenants, sergeants, detectives, cops, all ranks, just had no due process and had to either make a decision to take a vaccine they wanted to or not, or get terminated from the job with zero due process. And yet Zohran Mamdani on this platform said he wouldn't bring anybody back because if there's another health risk, he needs to know that they're going to be compliant. So he's telling you there will be another scamdemic. So Lou Turkle, what he's telling you is, hey, I'm okay with it. If there's another scamdemic, we're on board. We're going to work with you. We're not going to push back. We can't forgive that easily. Until our members are made whole, then we can forgive. But you sure as hell we can't forget. And they sure forgot because they only care about themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a pandemic. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, it's just you just bring it over anything. When your labor contracts mean nothing, when city labor law means nothing, when you're not going to get due process, when it gets thrown out of the window based upon an arbitrary decision, it's a lot bigger than a mandate. It's a lot bigger than everything. And that's what happened. And then all of the unions went out and endorsed Eric Adams over it. I mean, so they don't really give a shit about you. You know, it's honestly disgraceful, you know, and that's why, like, I know, you know, the union heads and the boards aren't fans of us at all, but rightfully so, because we're not fans of you at all. Honestly, I think that you guys are horrible at your job. I think that the best service that you could do for the New York City Police Department, to your own legacy, and to actually help your members, is to just admit that you're conflicted individuals. You're either incompetent or intentionally turn a blind eye for your own personal convenience. And I think the best thing you could do is actually steps down and make and before you step down, make that the elections to become presidents of those unions be free and fair and not controlled. But I don't think you will, because ultimately I think you're a bunch of criminals, and God help all of you if I ever go into elected office, because the first thing we're going to do is open up all those books, and we're going to see where all that money's been going and what all you guys have been doing. And we're going to go back and look at certain elections that were rigged to control millions of dollars in budget. Because I think that it's horrible what's happened. It's horrible what you allow happen to your members. It's horrible what you allow happen to the city, and it's horrible the things that you co-opt for your own personal convenience and your own personal financial gain.
Yeah. Well, I think a reckoning is coming. Okay, and I said it before, like we haven't had our come to Jesus moment with this scamdemic, and we will. And I promise you, Scott, when detectives eventually come to union and ask, why haven't you done anything about this? I will show up with the receipts, okay? And the receipts showing that I've posted about it and talked about it numerous times, and you're still not doing anything about it, okay? And you act as though this is like a our issue, and it's about the job and what the job is forced on cops. And you don't have to care about like my position or John's position, you know, or you know, in the case of CCRB, what they did to Eric. But you got to have concerns about what's happening to your members going forward, and you're not speaking up about any of that. So when that reckoning happens, I promise you, I will beat it. If I have to go to testify in front of city council about it, and how I warned the DEA when I told Kufo not that this isn't approved, I absolutely will be on there talking about it.
I think the bottom line is we've signified numerous times that integrity has no place in this administration right now. The only thing Marlon did the only thing Marlon did wrong was by having integrity. If Marlon would have lied and had a fraudulent vaccine card, he'd still be employed today, and he'd probably be on his way to being a first-grade detective. But because he sat on integrity, he's in this position. So that's what I learned by this. You know what? You think that you tell the truth, and you walk that line of moral value and principles, and that's the way to live your life, but not in this administration. And apparently, from what we see from Zohran Mamdani going forward in these potential picks, it doesn't apply to him either. So business as usual, keep moving forward with the NYPD and this lack of transparency and lack of integrity. So, but you know what, Marlon? Good things will happen to you. I really do believe it, because you deserve it. You're an intelligent person, and you did the right thing, and your moral character was never for sale. So for that, in the end, everything happens for a reason, and there's a better cause. There's something coming for you, and I really do believe that.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Sorry to laugh at this, but I just got a crazy. I didn't mean to laugh. So one, to start to wrap this up, and before we go to the super chats, someone had just sent me this. So in October of this year, average amount of time for CCRB to get a body worn camera request video is under 7 days, business days. So, I mean, the whole law is ridiculous. It's a waste of time. This whole argument's a waste of time. Ridiculous. So stupid. So I just wanted to point that out to wrap that up. But at WABC, Joe Anuda from Politico he says, we're at WABC for a new watchdog group that plans to monitor the policies and goings on of Zohran Mamdani once he takes office. What that entails is unclear. While there are many Mamdani foes at the table, Kathy Wild has not been one of them during the campaign. So WABC is going to have a whole watchdog group about Mamdani. I think you guys need to see who's in that watchdog group. So here's the watchdog group. I mean, they didn't care about the corruption of Eric Adams, so there was no watchdog group there. I mean, some of them were working with him and for him and were profiting directly from that corruption. But here's the watchdog group that's going to monitor. It's a real competent group of people here. Ready? You guys know anybody that? Oh, look, John Katzimatidis. Oh, Governor Patterson. Oh, who's this guy? Is that you, John? Oh, it's John Shell. John Shell's going to be there.
Oh, the king of integrity. Oh, yeah.
And is that the other dude that kept flying out to Epstein Island? Is that other constitutional scholar who thinks that you could force people to put things in their body?
Who's going to watch John Shell when he goes off on Twitter?
Oh, no, that wasn't him. A different guy. The guy with the glasses isn't who I thought it was. Never mind. But there's Dominic Carter, John. I mean, I've listened to a couple of interviews with John Katzimatidis, and I got to say, there's not a lot there. I'm like, I listened to an interview with him the other day, and I was like, if this guy could be a billionaire, anybody in this world could be anything. There's no excuses because there's not much past what you're seeing right now. I'm like, I don't know what the hell this guy's talking about. He's talking about how Mamdani won because of ranked choice voting. I'm like, that's not accurate. He's like just saying all this stuff, and Sid's like, yeah. And they all know he's wrong, but nobody's correcting him, And it was like on all the shit he was saying. So it was unbelievable. Danny Krasinha says Suzanne Miller, who's also sitting there, he said she literally pays to have a show on WABC. What a group of losers. Wow, could you imagine? Suzanne, when you want, you could pay us. We'll put you on the Finest Unfiltered, all right? And you could have you'll definitely get a lot more views if you come over here because we've been looking at the numbers. I mean, it's honestly pathetic. I think we're about to crack 50,000 subscribers just on YouTube today. So I appreciate all you guys for sharing this stuff out. We got about 800 people on with us right now. If you guys could just do us a favor, like, share, subscribe. If you're on social media, if you could share it out, we appreciate you guys. But I just think this is hysterical. What are your thoughts about this watchdog group? And would you be worried if any of these people were watching you?
Wait, I just want to say comment of the day goes to Patrick Donahue. Does Shell have the handicap parking placard yet?
So funny. Did we just go out?
Did we?
No, I thought Marlon was going to respond, but I'll take a stab at this. I think this is laughable. While the Eric Adams administration was just riddled with allegation after allegation, cost the city millions in tax dollars to fund their lawsuits, private contracts, scandal after scandal, but no issues with the Eric Adams administration. But Zohran Mamdani, who hasn't even stepped into office yet, they need to, be in full preparation and get ready. Get ready. Have you not looked at what's going on right now? I tell you, this is one motley crew.
Yeah.
What do you think, Marlon? Are you worried about these guys watching you?
Yeah, no, not at all. Now, the thing is this how they plan to put pressure on Mamdani to support causes that are beneficial to Katzimatidis?
100%.
Keep his assets up, because again, we talked about how WABC is basically subsidized by Katzimatidis. So I guess we know how they plan to keep that money flowing. Yeah.
Such a joke. A joke. I mean, this is it's so stupid, dude. Unbelievable. All right. Anything else before we get out of here? I mean, dude, there's like so much news, NYPD news that came out that we could literally go till tomorrow. We could go till we're supposed to go live tomorrow. I think we hit a lot of stuff today. Before we read the super chats, anything else any of you guys want to touch on?
No, I just want to say there's way too many necks at that table. There's a lot of necks there.
A lot of neck rolls, bro.
There's a lot of neck rolls, dude.
Thank you guys for joining us. We see the regulars. We thank you. I see Hardcore in there. I see we got KB, HFL, Crazy 10, Sleepy Joe, Patrick Donahue, of course. We thank you guys for you two, RH, for having a great the chat was on fire today. And we thank you guys as usual for joining us. I saw a comment earlier from J93 that said if you walk into a precinct, PSA, Transit, PDO, there is not a positive word spoken about Tish by anyone from the rank of PO to chief. She's horrible for morale and cluelessness. I just want to point out to that comment that we spoke earlier about. John mentioned how cops are kind of like they're kind of like already robots, kind of like they've checked out. I just want to point out how much what she's done so far kind of contributes to guys checking out. And again, that low morale, and when morale is really low, again, you have a bad product, and that bad product is reflected in cops kind of mentally checking out. So, but thank you guys for joining us, and I'll see you on Friday.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, friends, listeners. We appreciate it. The engagement is awesome. You keep us entertained. You actually help the show going a lot. There's a lot of times you keep the show going. You provide a lot of information that we might have overlooked. There's just so much stuff to talk about. With that being said, I appreciate everybody. Don't forget, tomorrow's Tuesday, Sal Greco show. And, of course, Wednesday we'll be back. And don't forget the Executive Perspective. And Tuesday night, Who's Who Character. Great guests from all over the country. That's 10-4 Tavern. Hell of a show, guys. Thank you so much for supporting the network. Our friends and listeners, we appreciate it. And like you said, RH and TL Trolls, we like you too. So I appreciate you getting the algorithm going.
Yep. A lot of drama coming out on Wednesday. So we got that hearing on Wednesday. I think there's a CCRB meeting on Wednesday. And then I believe the pilot that's suing Faison is going to court to get Eric Sanders removed off that case on Wednesday also. So there's a lot of stuff coming out. So there's always not going to be a lack. I do want to give a big shout out to retired Chief Osgood, Michael Osgood, for his very generous donation through the website. Much appreciated. His second very generous website donation through the website to the Finest Unfiltered.
And Sepify to Michael Osgood. Sepify, brother.
There were some other people that donated. I don't know if it's appropriate to read their names out or to give them a shout out, but if you want a shout out, please, if you do donate through the website and you want us to shout you out on the show, just send us an email so we know. You could do that through www.thefinestunfiltered.com. I don't want to just read your name out if you don't want people to know, so that's the thing. Obviously anyone that donates through YouTube, you don't mind. So first super chat, JB, he says, would you expect Zohran at the 7-3 press conference later? So I don't think you've ever seen a mayor-elect at a press conference for a shooting. I would expect him to weigh in on it on Twitter, on social media. He probably has already. I haven't looked at that, but I would expect to weigh him on social media. I don't expect him to be at the press conference later. There's a lot of political shenanigans going on with Eric Adams. He's playing all these games now, like, I'm going to make it harder for Zohran Mamdani to be, and he's not doing anything. It's all talking points for the media. He's too busy grifting and getting wine line pocket dime. Do you guys think that you'll see Zohran at a press conference for a police involved shooting until he becomes the mayor?
No. And, I'm sure even now, I don't think he'll actually make any comments at all, because I think at this point it could only do harm for him. So it's best for him just to stay out of it, not make any comments. I assume that he's going to stay out of it completely.
Actually, I'll say I don't expect it, but maybe if he was smart, he would have, because he would say, I'm not like the old guy, the last guy who's in Israel now. I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. But I don't expect that.
And you know what really fucking pissed me off about that? It was that firefighter's funeral, firefighter Patrick Brady, who suffered a massive heart attack in the line of duty while fighting a blaze. And so he didn't go to his funeral. He went to Israel to say he served them, the people of Israel. You're the mayor of New York City. Here, 3 New York City residents. You didn't serve us. You didn't serve us. And here's something else. Did Patrick Brady get his money back for being out line of duty because he also didn't want to take the vaccine? No, he didn't get it. He actually has a break in service under his name, under his track record, because he forced back against the mandate. And he ultimately decided to put something in his body that he didn't want because of Eric Adams. So Eric Adams, you full of shit again. Full of shit. That shit pissed me off more than anything. You should have been right here in New York City. You had no business. I don't care what award you were supposed to get. You know, I got offered an award coming up, and I had a family obligation that I couldn't do it. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'd like to be there, but I can't do it. You know, and so I mean, imagine it's one of your own firefighters or police officers get killed in the line of duty. I mean, that should be your ultimate obligation as the mayor of New York City. Other than a family emergency, there's no other reason that the mayor of New York City shouldn't have been there. Every political thing, every business related thing, anything that doesn't involve the life or death of others or your own family, there's no excuse for you not to be there. Disgraceful.
Wait, Eric Adams is still the mayor? I thought Zohar Mamdani's the mayor.
You would never know, bro. You would never know, right?
Yeah.
If you watch the news, you would never know. You think that Zohar Mamdani's the mayor of New York City.
It's true.
You know, Rich Rod, shout out to you, brother. Always go in your pocket. We appreciate you, brother. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to still keep working on this website. We're going to start pulling analytics off of it. If anybody wants to advertise on the website or advertise on the podcast, hit us up through the website. We'll get back to you. You know, I think it's a good way. You see how much interaction we have each day. It's better than running an ad in the paper. That's for damn sure. I'll tell you that. You know. So, Tom, sorry we missed you last week. You put in a super chat late. You were asking Eric, I think, about the New Orleans trip and if that's where he ran into Ray Kelly when the bus got pulled over. If I'm not mistaken.
He asked if we got pulled over. That's a true story. We did get pulled over in Virginia, so I'll never get. Absolutely, they stopped the caravan. But we, you know, at the time it was Chief Hall that was in charge there, and he actually said, "Just get back in your cars and let's go. Screw them." So shout out to him for that. That was actually a good job. He was like, "Don't pay any mind to them." They came by in a couple of Camaros.
Wow.
They stopped. Like you can't stay in the left lane and keep your lights on unless it's an emergency. Like, what do you think? What do you think this is? It was ridiculous.
Wow.
That's a true story.
Wow. Yeah. I've heard Virginia doesn't like us, you know. So you guys who are driving down there, if you're driving through Virginia, be careful of speeding. Yeah. I heard many stories they don't like us.
Oh yeah.
So.
I'm always scared of the police, dude. I'm always I don't, whenever I'm in any other state, I'm like, I'm good. You know. What else? Who else we got? So Tom says city council needs to find their dads. And he says the obsession with the NYPD yells lack of father figure.
Yeah,
I just think they need something because they're so, you know, I think that the city council really just not a bunch of competent individuals and they just need something to like hang on to. Like they need a bad guy, right? Like look how great it is for Eric Adams' legacy to now have a bad guy in Mamdani.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of like the same thing with city council. Like if it wasn't for the NYPD, like what do they really do? What do they do? What laws have they passed that have benefited you? What good have they done for the people in the city of New York? Nothing. So they have the NYPD as like this evil, racist, white supremacist, Donald Trump loving police force that's putting down the thumb of oppression on everyone, and they're railing against it. And when you look at it, they're idiots. They're a bunch of morons. They need that. If it wasn't for them, you'd be like, why do we pay these people? Why do we even have a city council? Enough laws on the books. Let's pull some back and call it a day. We don't need them anymore.
Yeah. And and I think Zohan is about to do the same thing, by the way. I put up a meme about it. Basically, when you don't have an agenda, it's very easy to divert young people and angry young people who they look at their lives and they can't afford a house. They can barely afford to live in the city, and they just got fired from a job they spent $100K in college, right, to get. And that job just said, "Oh, we don't need you. We're going to replace you with AI." So when Mamdani can't accomplish those socialist promises he made, he's going to do exactly like city council. He's going to offer up NYPD cops as sacrifices to the woke mob to keep them happy and to keep them motivated, to keep them motivated, and excited.
Honestly, I don't know why. I just think it's funny. I think the best part of Zoran Mamdani is that everybody pronounces his name different. Some people go Zoan, some go Mamdani, nobody can say his name right.
Scam Dammy.
Mamjammy. It's a hell of a ride, but please, can we not forget that Eric Adams is the mayor? And somehow people forget. Zoran Mamdani is not even the mayor yet. Anything can happen. KB said Zoran the moron. We will see, brother. We will see. Any more coffee and donuts, or that's it?
I don't think so. I think that's it. But like I'm getting
low on coffee and
I'm
donuts.
hearing that I got one rumor that says Jessica Tisch has announced she's staying, and now on the show someone's saying rumor is Tisch just told Zohran that she's not staying. So I'll go with Joel. His information's usually pretty good. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Joel. I think so. She just told Zohran. I mean, I don't see why you would. You know what I mean? I think for him it's beneficial. For her, I don't really see it. But now, you know what? We're going to be in for a hell of a ride because the media is coming for you, Zohran. Forget about it. The crime data, it's going to really be reported now in the news. So if you need some solutions, check out the Finance Unfiltered. You could always, we're like a free consulting company for New York City at this point,
Pretty much.
Because now you're going to see what the real crime numbers are because the news isn't going to hold back. So
it's coming.
Yeah. So, all right, people. All right, that's it. Check out Sal Greco show tomorrow at 13:05 or 1:05 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll leave you with a little dangerous. This could lead you to get 3/4. So we'll leave you with this. That's it, fellas. You got anything before we go?
Nah. Take care. Brush your hair. Coffee, donuts. Let's go.
Yep.
All right.
Be safe.
All right. Later, guys.
Active headcount, I defer to Commissioner Mark Stewart.
Yes, the active headcount, we have, since I took over a Community Affairs Bureau, we have two Community Affairs officers in each
Can you hold on a second, please? For individuals who weren't sworn in at the beginning, we're going to swear you in when you come up to speak. And also, can you please identify yourselves so that we could help with the transcription? So just do you affirm to tell the truth, nothing but the truth before this committee, to answer honestly to council member questions?
I do.
And can you identify yourself as well? And then go
Deputy
ahead.
Commissioner Mark Stewart.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we have approximately 741 community affairs officers. We have 2 in each precinct, 2 in each housing, and when they're called for protests, they know that they are assigned to be in the front regards into the community and the relationship. The budget, I don't have the numbers for the actual budget on the overtime that they work, but they're there to calm the public down.
Do you plan to increase the numbers?
No, I don't think we do. I think we get our assignment from operations, and so whatever the numbers are, then we send manpower out.
Okay. What steps has the department taken in changing how the officers in the Community Affairs Bureau respond to protests, and how many officers have been or will be engaged?
So just to speak to that for a moment. So what's going to happen is, as we ultimately finalize and come to a landing on the new policy, new training, all that, part of that is going to be training for protest liaisons. The settlement actually speaks to this quite expressly. There's a training for protest liaisons, and as we roll this out, we're going to have to identify sort of a universe of individuals, of members of service who can serve as protest liaisons, and then make sure they're provided with the necessary training.
Okay. How do you anticipate the use of the
Good morning, Deputy Commissioner Mark Stewart. In place, we have an option program that we have, it turns out, at 127 in Pennsylvania, and their main objective is to take our youth and teach them skills, de-escalation, and
Is the training altered to young people? I'm over here.
Hey, how you doing? Yes, it's altered to young people, and there's been a great success in our options and our program. The success has been so great that we're going to spread it to four boroughs now.
When was the last time you revised it and revamped it?
Excuse me?
When was the last time you revised it or revamped the training, the de-escalation training?
We revised it probably about a month ago.
Also, this question is for...
Good morning, Deputy Commissioner Mark Stewart.
Good morning, Mr. Stewart.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?